Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365, your daily deep dive into the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Zander Krause, joined by my co-host Johnny Mac, John McMullen, as we bring you the latest news, Eagles insights, and everything you need to know to stay connected to the Birds. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Friday morning?
Getting through it. Got some personal stuff I got to take care of, but we got to take care of the listeners as well with the Philadelphia Eagles. And, Jalen Carter showing up on the injury report. I guess that's the biggest news, sort of out of nowhere with a shoulder injury. We'll get a better indication later today when the status report's got to come out for Sunday. My guess is they're trying to manage him through the week at this point, and he's going to try to give it a go, but we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, different looking show right now for those just checking in, for those listening on the podcast. As Johnny Mac pointed out, he does have some personal things to deal with today. So we will be, I'll have John from about 8 right now until around 8:35. Then we're going to let John drop off. I will do a Q&A. I have some great topics to talk about with the people as well after John drops off. So I'll give you guys some extra content. But 8 to 8:35, we'll have Johnny Mac. We'll talk about the injuries. We'll talk about the Eagles, and we'll talk about this game coming up versus the New York Giants. So appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like button. Drop a like for Johnny Mac, who carved some time out of a busy day today to give the people some Eagles content. We appreciate that from Johnny Mac. John, you gave us the lead story right there, man. Jalen Carter did not practice yesterday. I originally saw your tweet and your video of Jalen, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably just a rest day or something like that. Could it be just a rest day and they're nursing, some shoulder? I think everybody has pain when you play in the NFL in week 7. Or does this seem like it could be a bigger injury for Jalen Carter?
No, it's a legit injury when the Eagles do, sort of manage someone, or other teams in the NFL. You can put it on the injury report as did not practice, rest, maintenance, whatever. And the fact that he wasn't on the injury report Wednesday indicates that in practice on Wednesday, and then you got to put him on there. So the good news is I saw him in the locker room before practice. So generally, if an injury is really there's a chance it's pretty significant. Generally, they're not going to come in the locker room, and they're getting rehabs with the trainers or something of that nature. But the fact that he was in there was a positive sign, but not 100%. I mean, Jordan Mailata was in there, but Jordan just likes people. He likes to be around people. So typically you don't see injured players in there. Dallas Goedert wasn't in there for an example. So he and Jordan are not going to play on Sunday. And everybody else, Slay also didn't practice. Now he practiced in a limited fashion on Wednesday.
Did I lose you, John?
I have you. Do you have me?
Damn, might have lost Johnny Mac there on the audio.
I have
let me
you.
reconnect with Johnny Mac. That was good stuff there. He's giving us a good breakdown on what's going on in the locker room. I should get him back soon. I don't know if he can hear me or not. I still have him in here. Yep, there he is. He dropped off. Let me get Johnny Mac up. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. It's going to look a little different, as I mentioned. I do have some great topics for all of you guys. With the Malik Nabers, he's set to play. Eagles are going to have to run the ball. I have some incredible stats that I'll give you guys on this Giants run defense. Brutal. So Fred Johnson I'll talk about versus Brian Burns. And then Dexter Lawrence, man. How are you going to stop Dexter Lawrence? Not good there. There we go. Let's get Johnny Mac back up here. See if he's in. Johnny Mac, do I got you, brother?
Yeah, I never lost you. Do you have me?
Is it me?
I can hear you.
Can you guys give me a check in the chat if you guys can hear John right now? Because I can't hear John, and I don't know if it's me.
Yeah, anybody hear me? Because I hear Zander.
We can hear John, but Daniel says right now I don't have. Let me reconnect, John. I'm gonna John. They got you apparently. I don't have you, so let me see if I can drop off real quick, John, and I'll be right back.
So well, I don't know if anybody hears me, but I'll start talking about the injuries and the fact I assume you guys all heard me, but the fact that to
All
me
right,
it's a
I'm back in.
positive.
Johnny Mac, I think I got you.
All right, I was babbling. I don't know if anybody hears me, but I was babbling anyway. Um, I from the perspective generally when you see guys in the locker room, it's not as serious from an injury perspective. And Slay, I've seen both days, and he keeps saying the knee is fine, and he's trying to manage his way through it. But you have the MetLife turf, which has been a big story this week. Mekhi Becton said some wonderful things. Slay in the past has talked about it. Nobody likes playing there, but you got to play there. I mean, teams, the Giants and Jets play there all the time. So, I mean, it's something you got to get through. Um, it's interesting if you think about AJ Brown, for instance. He got injured in Week 18 at MetLife. That's where he hurt his knee, and he don't want to talk about that at all. Because you probably don't want that in your head going back to that particular stadium, that particular field, that particular turf. Um, so there's some concerns there, but it's going to be an important day injury wise, and obviously you're not going to have Jordan Mailata, you're not going to have Dallas Goedert, and the hope is you're going to have Jalen Carter and Darius Slay. Milton Williams, another guy, he didn't practice on Wednesday, was limited Thursday. Now he flat out told me he's going to play, and he's not missing any games. So um, that's a positive because, boy, you talk about a nightmare scenario if you don't have Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. So at least you're going to have Milton from that perspective. And the Giants are banged up as well. We talked about it with Andrew Thomas and even Dexter Lawrence being banged up. Now Malik Nabers finally cleared the concussion protocol up there, so you're going to have to deal with him. Um, and he's been a spectacular rookie. He's sort of like their new Saquon. He's the only playmaker you got to worry about.
Yeah, right.
A little bit. I mean, that's probably unfair because Darius Slayton, but he's banged up as well. He can make a play. Wan'Dale Robinson is sort of like a manufactured touch guy, and he can make a play. But if you're real, I'm talking about really high level playmakers. Malik Nabers is the guy for the Giants, and he's going to be back after missing 2 games with a concussion.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he might have that AJ Brown type of effect on that Giants team, Johnny Mac, because I know he's their only guy, but he made Daniel Jones look a lot better on several throws this year. So I'm wondering, for all the criticism we give Daniel Jones here in Philadelphia, I don't think this is a game you want to take lightly. An NFC East battle. They did beat us last year with the Pizza Boy. So look, you got to come in, you got to take this game seriously, and I think Malik Nabers makes a big difference for that offense.
Oh, he does. I mean, his first 5 games were historic. I mean, I think he had the second most receptions ever for a rookie through his first 5 games. He was in the top 5, I believe, in receiving yards in that category. Now, most because of the shift in the game, most of those names have been more recent receivers, guys breaking those records. Puka Nacua was the record he was chasing. So that kind of tells you because the game has changed so much and evolved towards the passing game so much, you see those types of statistics dominated by recent rookie receivers. But amongst the group, even with that group that has been more productive than usual, he's been really good. He's legit. He is really a big time playmaker.
Yeah, no doubt. 35 catches this year, 386 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 4 games for Malik Nabers. That's no joke. That's a good player, a rookie in the league, and he's going to be somebody we're going to have to watch out for. Who do you think will stick on him? I know it's not really our defense. We don't play man like that, but I'd like to see Quinyon Mitchell lined up on him a lot. I don't know if it'll be that way, but if you're the Giants, where would you try and game plan him to go up against our defense?
No, it's funny you say that because when Slay went down last week, we were talking to Quinyon yesterday, and asked him, was there any thought of moving around with Amari Cooper? Now,
Right.
Amari Cooper isn't what he once was, but Quinyon said no. He just stayed on his side. So there was no, even without Slay, it was just next man up. And that's the way Vic's going to handle it. I mean, if there's anybody that's going to travel on a particular week, it's going to be Slay. Certainly not Quinyon. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. So, from a standpoint of Brian Daboll, if he wants to get Malik Nabers away from Quinyon Mitchell, he can do it pretty easily. So that's another maybe thing that the fans aren't going to necessarily like about this particular defense. But there's not going to be a lot of traveling, even with Slay. Never mind without him.
The other two receivers the Giants have, Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. Darius Slayton has 24 catches for 301 yards and a touchdown. And Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a good slot receiver, actually, has 37 catches for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Daniel Jones is getting that ball out over there. Those dudes are racking up some pretty good numbers for those 3 receivers. We'll see how the Eagles' improved secondary looks versus those guys. Johnny Mac, I'm going to go into some running stats with you because coming into this game, John, to me, it looks like the Eagles should run the damn ball. Now, you brought up an interesting point yesterday about the owner and him maybe wanting to take Saquon out of the game from a game plan perspective solely because of how butthurt he is about losing him to the Philadelphia Eagles. But I can't look past some of these stats. The Giants' rankings right now in run defense are putrid. Their run defense DVOA, they're ranked 29th in the league. Rushing yards per game allowed is 132.4, good for 29th in the league. Their rushing yards per attempt is 4.7 yards per attempt, good for 31st in the league. And their rushing first downs per game allowed, 7.9 a game, good for 31st in the league. And I will point out there are 4 of the top 7 of the Giants' opponents this year. 4 of them were in the top 7 and most pass-happy teams in the NFL. So teams that really don't come in looking to run have played against the Giants, and those are the numbers. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you just signed $12 million, Saquon Barkley, he's returning home to play at MetLife Stadium. Johnny Mac, let's turn around and run the ball when you hear those stats, right?
No, I'll make a little correction just from the standpoint. I don't think John Maris going in and saying we're going to game plan to stop Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, no.
I think it's human nature that Brian Daboll and Shane Bowen, his new defensive coordinator, and Joe Shane, but I'm talking about Daboll and Shane specifically, the GM. They're going to lose their jobs if Saquon Barkley goes for 200 yards in his return to MetLife Stadium. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to get fired like next week, like Robert Saleh, but they're going to lose their jobs if stuff like that happens. So I think there's going to be an overcorrection, maybe, and I think maybe the Eagles. I think how you should look at it as an Eagles fan is you can use that to your advantage. Because I think they're going to be hyper focused to their detriment to maybe where they shouldn't be on stopping him so they don't look bad or as bad. And that gives you an opportunity to take advantage of things in other places. Now, maybe it doesn't. Maybe they don't care, but I find it hard to believe. But watching Hard Knocks, I mean, the poor guy, and I'm talking about Joe Shane, he's got to explain. And it's pretty evident, and I say it all the time, and Eagles fans get mad at me sometimes. I'm like, look, the Giants shouldn't have signed Saquon Barkley. Not even a decision for him. They're not in a position to take advantage of a player like that. They went through it for 6 years.
Right.
How many more years you got to go through it? The Eagles are in a different situation as a potential contender, although they've disappointed largely due to injuries and some other issues, and people are disappointed with them. But on paper, at least, all right, they might be in a position to take advantage of it. The Giants just weren't. I mean, they just weren't, and they didn't, and they haven't. So to do it again is just insanity. And if I were Joe Shane and John Mara acted like that, I was like, really? I got to explain this to this guy? But you have to because it's your boss.
Yeah, it's your owner, Johnny Mackey, and
Yeah,
explain. Yeah.
I mean, and you got to pay. You got to pay lip service to it, but you know it when he goes home at night. He's like, why do I have to explain this? It's blatantly obvious. So yeah, I mean, but the bottom line is they're going to lose their jobs if he goes nuts. And even though that's not the way you can go about it, and that pretty much sums up the New York Giants as an organization, as a poor organization, um, they can't handle something like that. So I think the human nature aspect of it is they're going to do everything to make sure that Saquon Barkley doesn't embarrass them again in a trip back to MetLife Stadium. That's the feel I get going into this game.
John, biggest advantage I think for the Giants coming into this game, just looking at from the opponent's point of view, they lead the league right now, first in the league in sacks. You got Fred Johnson, who's stepping in for Jordan Mailata against Brian Burns, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 23 tackles this year. And then you have the greatness of Dexter Lawrence, which you talk about all the time. He has 7 sacks and 19 tackles early in the year, and as a team, they have 25 sacks. John McMullen. That is a good output for that Giants defensive line. If you're the Eagles, how do you contain that coming into this game?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult with Fred coming. I mean, you typically don't worry about this stuff with Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson out there. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be Nick Bosa. It doesn't matter. Um, those guys tend to handle um, their jobs pretty well. And this is a week where if you had Jordan, you probably go in and say, all right, well, we got to figure out how to block Dexter Lawrence. But that, while it's never easy, it's a little bit easier for the Eagles than most teams because then you can start sliding help Dexter Lawrence's way. You double team him, like the stories of Aaron Donald. He never they never not double teamed Aaron Donald. Every time they would figure out where he was and they would slide protection that way. You can do that when you don't have to help your tackles at all. Now all of a sudden, you got Fred Johnson at left tackle dealing with Brian Burns for the most part. You're going to have to give him some help at times, whether it's, putting Jack Stoll on that side, chipping, maybe Saquon coming out of the backfield, or maybe, Landon Dickerson helping out a little bit, at least when Brian Burns maybe takes an inside move versus an outside move. So you got to consider all those scenarios to try to help. And typically, one of the biggest luxury for any of the Eagles coordinators that the fans dislike, dating back to really far past, because the strength of this offensive line has been what it's been over the past 10 years or so. They put their tackles on an island and say, "Go do it." And not a lot of teams can do that. And it was interesting. Fred Johnson was talking about it. They put him on an island on the play that won the game, and he did enough to keep Myles Garrett out of there. But I don't know if you can do that consistently. It's not Myles this week. It's not quite that good, but Brian Burns is a very good player. Yeah, it changes the way you have to play, and and you sort of learn how the other half lives because they barely help Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson at all.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing with that. That should be an interesting matchup. John, I want to get into what you saw yesterday. I know you mentioned Jalen Carter already. We talked about that. We only have you for about 10, 12 more minutes. So just what you saw yesterday, did anything stand out in who you spoke with in the locker room yesterday? I know a couple of the players spoke to you guys. A.J. Brown spoke. Anything notable from yesterday at NovaCare Complex worthy of letting the listeners know?
James Bradbury showed up. James Bradbury showed up.
Wow.
I have not seen James since he went on injured reserve, and all of a sudden he's there. I was joking he's probably back in Alabama, and bang, he shows up. And obviously that situation is what it is. He's almost working as an extra coach with the young defensive backs, and he's getting closer to being healthier. He described himself as day to day. Still don't see a role for him. I mean, they can't even get Sidney Brown activated, so there's not a ton of places to go with James Bradbury. But it was good to see him. Good guy, as mentioned. Um, the silver lining for him is he's making his money and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure he wants to play and contribute, but Eagles went in a different direction. But it was good to see him at least.
Good to see James Bradbury back. We'll see what they end up doing with him. Maybe he'll transition into coaching, Johnny Mac. We'll see what they end up doing there. John, keys to the game for victory for the Philadelphia Eagles coming into this game. We'll talk to you again on the pregame show when you'll be at MetLife Stadium. At least I think that's your plan. I'll talk to you after the show about what you have going on. I know you have some personal things going on. Keys of the game for the Eagles coming into this one to win.
Well, number one, I think you talked about is pass protection. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to help Fred Johnson. And we talked a lot earlier in the week. Well, do you move Mekhi Becton outside? It does look like, because I did see Jordan yesterday, Jordan Mailata. It doesn't look as serious as maybe it looked originally when all the video came out of him on the crutches after the game and not moving around well. He ditched the crutches. He was limping, but he was walking on his own. So maybe it only is going to be 2 games, but 2 games is 2 games. I mean, he's been one of the best left tackles in football early in the season. And they're, as I kind of mentioned, they're not the same when he or Lane are not on the field from a pass perspective. You can't just, it's a luxury. As Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator, you can't just ignore it and say, all right, next man up, let's not help, let's not block. Or as you mentioned, the Giants and how good they've been on the pass rush, and how much they've gotten home this year, even without Kayvon Thibodeau's on injured reserve. They still have Brian Burns. They still have Azeez Ojulari. So they got some guys who can rush the passer. So number one, I would think is protection. Defensively, I think you're always super concerned with Daniel Jones about his ability to run the football. And he is way more athletic than people give him credit for. And he's been running it and running it effectively this year, coming off the injury. And he's also, he's a big guy. He's more like a Jalen Hurts type in the fact that he'll put his shoulder down. He'll try to get that first down as opposed to being the scat back type runner, more of a physical runner. So that concerns you. And with Nabers back, you got a real threat. So you gotta have your P's and Q's in order in the secondary. Make sure you're not busting coverages and communicating well, because he can make big plays down the field. But all of that. They're an NFL team, so they have good players. I talk about it all the time. But overall, from a perspective of the New York Giants are not a good football team. So I mean, if you bring your A game to MetLife Stadium, which too often in the past few years the Eagles have not done, it's been a little bit of a house of horrors for Jalen Hurts, whether he's playing the Giants or the Jets. Um, you should win the football game. Divisional game, that complicates it because you have the familiar nature of playing the opponent and these coaching staffs. The Giants have made some changes. No more Wink Martindale, but Nick Sirianni's very familiar with Brian Daboll and vice versa. Um, so that factors into it, and usually division games are closer. But I mean, they should win the football game. Let's be honest. This is not a good team, the New York Giants.
No, they're not. John, one other question here before I get your prediction on the way out here. Appreciate you checking in this morning, John. Hope everything is well on the family side and with you and your wife as well. And I know she had suffered a loss yesterday. So hopefully everything is good with you guys over there. We appreciate you being here this morning. John, Eagles defensive line, Eagles pass rush showed some signs of life last week versus the Cleveland Browns. 5 sacks, finally getting on the board. In a meaningful way. Bryce Huff was in that 4-point stance, and he looked a little bit better. The Giants are not equipped to replace their left tackle, John. They're losing Andrew Thomas, who, by the way, is a tremendous football player, but he is out. He is the best guy on their O-line, and he's out. They're not really in a good spot to replace him, John. Their backup there, Evan Neal, they're not even practicing him at left tackle, and he was, I think, a top 5 draft pick a couple years ago out of Alabama. They're not even practicing him at left tackle, so it seems unlikely to me that the game is going to come and they're going to roll him out at left tackle. So they have a couple other options there. Maybe they could move Illuminor over. They have a couple other backups on the roster, maybe Azudu and Stinney. I don't think they'll be in there, or maybe Azudu would be in there. But anyway, it looks like it could be a feast day off that left side for the Eagles' defensive line. What do you expect from the pass rush coming into this game?
Yeah, it's an opportunity. And, obviously the pass rush needs to get a little bit of confidence and a little bit of success that they started to get at Cleveland. That's been the bugaboo for the Giants for years is poor offensive line play. And they finally get a big time player in Andrew Thomas and they lose him for the season. So that's obviously a disappointment from their perspective. My guess is Illuminor is going to be moved over. And then you start talking in the effect, all right, you're gonna move him from right tackle to left tackle, and maybe he's serviceable. And then you got to put Neal in at right tackle, and you're affecting 2 spots, so it could work to the Eagles certainly a favor. But the Eagles are dealing with the same thing with Fred Johnson. Now Fred's gotten to play a little bit, so.
Yeah, I mean, he also Fred Johnson. I mean, people are high on him. John, he did give up 11 pressures and 38 pass.
Well, that's what I mean. It ain't great. I love. Fred's a great story on a personal level.
Yeah,
it's hard not to root for the guy. But yeah, it hasn't been great when he's out there. I mean, if people think that, it's not the case. So, it's fun to say next man up, and the Eagles are hardly the only team that says that. That's the approach you got to have. But starters are starters for a reason, and high-level starters are high-level starters for a reason. And that's what Jordan Mailata and Andrew Thomas are, and they happen to play the same position. So both teams are up against it, trying to replace them. And I like the Eagles' thought process better. Don't affect 2 spots. And then the Giants, what they seem to be wanting to do or are going to do. But, both teams are going to have trouble at left tackles the way I look at it.
Good stuff there, John. We'll get your prediction. I do want to correct one thing, which was my mistake, and I apologize to everybody listening. The run defense numbers I gave for the New York Giants, they were the 2023 numbers. Shame on me.
Boy.
No, they're still bad in 2024,
Yeah.
but the 31, that was a 23. They're a little bit up this year, still bottom 2 in the league in rushing yards per carry at 5.24. So my apologies for everybody. Those are the 2023 stats, and I'll get you guys the full 24 stats coming up. John, your prediction coming into the game before I let you go, brother?
Um, yeah, the Eagles' struggles at MetLife Stadium recently have been real. That's the Jalen Rager game with the two drop passes. Jalen got hurt there. AJ got hurt there. Um, Nobody likes the turf. I think that plays into people's heads a little bit. Um, but they got to find a way to win this game. I think it's going to be similar to last week against Cleveland. It's going to be ugly at times, but they're going to find a way to win it. Just more talent, just better equipped, and this is a game you can't lose. I don't want to. It's still early in the season. I don't want to overstate it when people throw must win. There's no must wins at this point of the season. Um, but the way things have gone this week and all the nonsense surrounding Nick Sirianni, you can imagine losing to a New York Giants team, what next week would be. Eagles got to stem the tide and just get out of there with a win. But I do think it'll be closer than people expect, and probably a 23-20 type game. The Eagles get out of there by the skin of their teeth.
23-20, Johnny Mac predicts. John, before I let you go, I'll just respond by saying this. I will disagree. I think this is a must-win
No
game.
such thing.
And the reason I'm saying that,
Statistically,
John, is because the floor is going to fall out from this frickin' team if they can't muster their way past the New York Football Giants.
yeah. Well, there's still time to turn it around.
Oh, there is. But
I
shit,
said
we
that
better
about.
be competitive in the division, John. That would put the Giants at 3-4 and us at 3-3. And that would not look pretty with the
But
Commanders.
even if you're in the NFC North at this stage, it wouldn't be over. But remember, the division ain't good. So, in the worst case scenario, I get from your perspective, the week will be miserable for the Philadelphia Eagles if they lose that
Oh, it'll be
particular game.
miserable. Yeah.
I'm just saying it from a realistic standpoint. They're still in it because the NFC East is so terrible. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yep, no doubt. John, thanks for joining this morning, man. Great stuff. As always, we'll talk to you again on the pregame show. Hope everything goes well today for you, your wife, and your family. Sorry for the loss over there, and we appreciate you checking in today to give us some insight. The number one Eagles beat reporter, everybody, John McMullen. John, thank you, man.
All right, thanks, guys, and thanks for listening. Sorry I couldn't give you the full 2 hours today, but hopefully Zander can pick me up. You need people to pick you up at times. So I
John, I
appreciate
got
it,
your back,
everyone.
brother. Thank you,
All right,
man.
thank you.
Yeah, there's Johnny Mac joining us here on Birds 365. Great stuff from John, and we appreciate him checking in and taking some time. I know he has. There was a loss on his wife's friend. I believe it was his wife's best friend's mother passed, and they were all a very close knit community. So John's hosting some people before the viewing and some stuff today. So pray for John and John's family. Hopefully they are all good. Appreciate everybody being here. Let me thank everybody, as I always do, for being here on JAKIB Sports. Appreciate all you guys, man. We got some great stuff to get into. I don't know if I'll be able to give you a full 2 hours today, but I will definitely get into some of my keys to the game, what I'm looking at coming into this game. I don't think this game is as easy as we might be thinking. I know the Giants are the damn Giants, and they don't scare me at all. But it's the NFC East. Eagles have not been playing as good as they should be playing. They have not played up to their talent level. And that gives you some pause. So they got to come in here and really put it all together and get a win. So let me get to the 2 super chats. Eduardo, this is a shout out for the greatness. And this is one of the most beautiful names you could have for a girl. Alexandria. I love that name. Big shout out to Alexandria Reza. Eduardo says, Zander, I'm on the road headed to New York City with my beautiful daughter, going to visit the Big Apple and catch the Eagles game. Can you shout out my girl, Alexandria? Absolutely, I can do that, Eduardo. Big shout out to you, Alexandria. And Eduardo, you're a traveling man, my brother. You were in Brazil, in Sao Paulo for the Eagles opener. Now he's up in the Big Apple. Maybe you'll run into my brother on the street who's up in the Big Apple as well. My brother's a big New York fan, everybody. he's I told you, if you're a hockey guy, I did not grow up a Flyers fan. I hate to break it to you. I'm not a 4-for-4 type of guy. If you think I am not. I do not like the Flyers. I've never liked the Flyers. So I am actually a Rangers fan with my brother. I grew up a Devils fan because I was a goalie. I showed you guys my awesome goalie mask. I'm not sure if you all saw that, but I did show that at one point on the National Football Show. And I was a Martin Brodeur fan. So when Marty retired, my brother and my dad, who are both big Rangers fans, recruited me over. That was about 10 years ago or somewhere in that range. And I've been rooting for the Blue ever since. So I'm not a Flyers guy. But enjoy your time in New York. Eduardo, appreciate you, brother, for being here. Good stuff. Joe Whipp calls me a traitor. Joe, I'm all right with that because sports is not a monolith, Joe. And I'm going to root for who I want to root for, Joe, but I appreciate you being here, brother. Joe, by the way, are you down there for that SpaceX thing? Because I saw your email. That would be pretty tremendous if you were. Kenny Sprague checks in, another super chat. Kenny says, just want to clarify, when we lost the New York Giants, it was Tyrod Taylor, not the pizza boy. He only threw 2 passes. Good clarification there from Kenny. He's like, I'll take some disrespect, but I'm not taking that much disrespect. Tyrod Taylor's a little bit better than the pizza boy. Good stuff there from Kenny Sprague. I'm going to get to a commercial. Kenny one more checks in again, says, Slay been injured the past 3 times at MetLife. Kenny, it's a good point. I was going to ask John about that, but John doesn't like to engage in. Remember, he's a reporter, everybody, so he has to hold integrity. I don't believe that John would make an assumption about that, but it is interesting to see what's going on there. Ultra Ronan says, Xander's not rooting for the Birds. Ultra, that's not what I said. Look at me in my Eagle shirt. No, I was talking about the Flyers. I'm not a Flyers fan. I'm not a Philly 4-for-4 guy because I do not like the Flyers. But good stuff there. Appreciate you all being here. I'm going to get to the commercial break. We'll come back. We'll kick some topics around. I'll take some questions from you guys as well. Appreciate all the questions. Hit that like button. We got to talk about this Giants O-line, where we're going to pick on them. They're missing Andrew Thomas. That's a big loss. We got to talk about this Giants run defense, what we're going to do to kind of take advantage of that, and what should be the approach, for the Eagles coming into this game? Is it pass happy? Is it Saquon Barkley? Do you anticipate the Giants taking Saquon out of the game? I think they could try. I think John had a good point about that. Sometimes you cater to what the owner wants, right? So we'll see about that. I'll get to the commercial break now. Appreciate everybody being here. Good to see you, Flex. Good to see you, Daz. Ian East. Appreciate it. Ian, did you make it back home? My friend Ian is from, I don't want to say Australia. Where are you from, Ian? I forgot. I know you're somewhere over there in Europe. And he was over here in Philly for an Eagles game last week for the Browns game. So good stuff from Ian, a big traveling Eagle fan. He was here in Philly. Did you make it home, Ian? And did you enjoy your time in the great city of brotherly love? Let me know, Ian. I will respond back to you in the chat. Let's get to our commercial break. Appreciate everybody being here. Back in 3 minutes on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds.
And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. I'm your host, Zander Krause. Appreciate all of you guys checking me out. Look at the screen. You can see my socials on there. My Twitter is @RealZander, Instagram @RealZanderKrause, which I'm not so active on Instagram. But Twitter, give me a follow. I always engage back and try and follow back anybody that comes from the YouTube channel and follows me there. So definitely drop me a follow on Twitter. I love connecting with you guys on multiple platform. So if you're over there, give me a follow and I will follow you back. Just holler at me. Appreciate that. We're going to get into some great topics here with the game coming up. Eagles week 7 here. They're 3-2, or what are the Eagles right now? 3-2, right? Yeah, 3-2. They're looking to move to 4-2. The Giants are 2-4. So the Birds are looking to move to 4-2. I think they're going to go on a run of wins here. I don't want to be deceived by it. Because you have some really bad opponents. I mean, you had the Browns, now you have the Giants, then you're going to have the Bengals and the Jaguars. So the Bengals are competent. They have a great quarterback, but like I said, their defense is putrid in Cincinnati. So they're not a good football team overall, but have a good quarterback and a couple good players on offense. So Eagles have a chance to go on a run here and kind of put the win column, get right with the win column and maybe get the 6-2, 5-3, somewhere in that range. I'd like to see the Eagles do that, and then hopefully they can improve and work upon some of the problems that they have to get there on the way. We will see how they do about that. The big one for me, everybody from the Giants side, when I look at this game is it's their defensive line. And it's Malik Nabers being back. I know everybody's like, oh, he's a rookie and Daniel Jones doesn't scare me. I mean, Malik Nabers, guys, has pieced together some incredible games to start his NFL career. When the Giants went up against the Commanders, another NFC East foe, they ended up losing that game. Jaden Daniels played pretty good in that game. That was back in week 2 of the year. The Giants moved to 0-2. Malik Nabers had 10 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown in that game. That dude can play. And here's the thing I don't like. If we sit in that soft zone, 2 high safety defense with the cornerbacks 10 yards off, Malik Nabers is going to have a field day. And I know we all criticize Daniel Jones, but if you have a good receiver, which he finally does in Malik Nabers, and you have a soft zone defense, you saw it. You can make Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady. That's just how it works with this defense. So I will say Malik Nabers being back in this game is a fear of mine, and I'd like to see how the Eagles and Vic Fangio are going to game plan up and approach covering him and taking him out of the game. If you look at some of his stats, I'll look at his stats. Malik Nabers is here. He, like I mentioned, he had that big game there. I mean, he's got 386 receiving yards, 35 receptions already for Malik Nabers and 3 receiving touchdowns, and he missed a game. He only played, I believe, 4 games for Malik Nabers. He missed the last 2 for the Giants. So his outings were in week 1, he had 7 targets, 5 receptions, 66 yards. Then he went off. He had 10 receptions, 127 yards. He had 18 targets in that game, everyone. 18! 18 targets and 127 yards, a touchdown there. So that's really impressive. And then the next game, he followed up with a win in Cleveland. He had 12 targets, 8 catches, 78 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The dude can flat out play. The dude can flat out play. Dallas, and then versus Dallas, he had 15 targets. So if we're getting that right, the last 3 games of Malik Nabers, he had 18 targets, 12 targets, and 15 targets. They're going to this guy like we go to A.J. Brown. He had 12 receptions in that Dallas game, 115 yards, and no touchdowns, and average of 9.6. The dude is playing good football, and he's that good of a player. They definitely got one. They definitely got one in New York with him. And Niall Christian checks in. Niall, appreciate it, brother. He says 18 targets. That's fantasy gold right there. You're right, man. That's video game type of numbers where you play Madden and you pick the Eagles and you just throw to A.J. Brown every time because he's open. Or if you're a Giants fan, you pick the Giants and throw to Malik. That's 18 targets is obscene. I don't know how many passes Daniel Jones threw in that game, but 18 targets, let's say through 30. 18 of them went to Malik. I mean, that dude is here. Ian East brings up a good point. He says Quinion shuts him down and we're good. Ian, we don't play that style of defense. We don't play man defense. Quinion's not going to have a chance to shut him down because he's going to be sitting in that soft zone. And you heard John say it. They're not going to move him around. So if he's on Quinion's side, I feel good about Quinion on him, but they're not going to move him around, Quinion, and they're most likely not going to be in man coverage. They ran a little bit more man last week versus the Browns. I think part of that was because of how bad Deshaun Watson is, and they kind of preyed on that, but we'll see. I'm going to get to a couple super chats here. Anthony Wilson, appreciate you, brother. One of our best viewers here, Anthony Wilson. He says, Zander, keep up the good work. I'm an Eagles fan living in Dallas, but from Dayton, Ohio, like Keith Byers. He's the reason I'm an Eagles fan. Anthony, very cool, man. Good to have you checking in from Dallas. I lived in Texas, Anthony, for 2 years of my life when I got out of college. I lived in the Houston area, which I probably wouldn't recommend. Dallas. I think I like Dallas is a better spot than Houston. But when I was back in college at Alabama, actually, funny story, Jalen Hurts' very first game as a starter at Alabama, he was not supposed to play. It was supposed to be, I believe, Blake Barnett was supposed to play. I was a freshman at Alabama, as well as Jalen Hurts was also a freshman. And I got in the car, me and a couple of the dudes that were in the fraternity I was in or whatever. I'm not a big frat guy, but I was at the time in Alabama. We all loaded up a couple pickup trucks, loaded up the coolers, and drove down to Dallas in Jerry's World. And I was at that game, and I watched Jalen Hurts march onto the field, and we're all like, what the hell? Jalen Hurts is starting? He was a freshman at the time, so nobody expected it. A freshman quarterback had never played under Nick Saban at the time. So a little good Dallas insight there from you. Last time I was in Dallas, I was at Jerry's World to watch Alabama take on USC in that game. I believe they won 52-6 with Jalen Hurts at the helm. So a big win there for Alabama. Appreciate you checking in, Anthony. Appreciate you pushing back as well, man. We're always good with freedom of thought here. Daniel Bigelow checks in with a super chat. He says, hell yeah, Z, go Rangers. Panarin is on fire. Yes, he is, Daniel. Another big win last night for the Blue Coats. So good stuff for the Rangers. Daniel, I think this could be the year for the Rangers. Don't hold me to it, but I think they have a good chance this year to take it all the way. There's a lot of good hockey teams in the league right now. So I'm a big NHL guy. I love the NHL. I've been getting really back into it. I grew up playing hockey, so that's my background. Let's move into some of the Eagles topics here in the game. I mentioned Malik Nabers and how big that is. I'm looking at this offensive line for the Eagles, and it doesn't really look all that pretty. If you look, you're missing Jordan Mailata coming into this game. You have Fred Johnson, who's going to have to step up. And we have Jarrell Ray in the chat who says he believes in Fred. He believes in Fred. I'm okay with that. And Jarrell, I appreciate your optimism. This is my worry with Fred Johnson. And I'll pull up the stats for you. So Fred Johnson's played in 3 games this year, right? He played 33 pass blocking snaps versus the Saints. He had a pretty good outing, honestly. No sacks. He had 1 penalty, only gave up 5 pressures. Next game, he played the full game, remember, in Tampa Bay versus the Buccaneers. 38 pass blocking snaps, 2 sacks given up, 1 penalty, and 11 pressures. 11 pressures. Not good for Fred Johnson, and then he played 5 snaps versus the Browns last week and gave up 2 pressures in that. So Fred Johnson hasn't really been great. I know that's kind of what he is. He's a backup tackle. He's not supposed to be Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata, but he's going up against a good defensive line that leads the NFL in sacks right now with 25. How's he going to block Brian Burns? That's going to be an interesting matchup. We'll see what he can do about that. And then you go to the interior of the line. I know we're all enjoying the Cam Jurgens experiment, but he hasn't played a guy of Dexter Lawrence's caliber who has 7 sacks this year. Dexter Lawrence has 7 sacks, 19 tackles. That is a beast in the middle. And I don't know if we're equipped to take him out of the game. So what's your approach offensively to kind of mitigate those guys? This is where I get upset with the Eagles offense, because sometimes I think they lack the situational awareness to attack certain opponents in different ways, right? Like you watched when we went against the Bucs, you heard Jalen Carter and Vic Fangio talk about how long Baker Mayfield holds the ball. They knew that we were coming. Their game plan coming into the game was get the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands quickly. To me, it doesn't seem like the Eagles take that approach with people, with teams. It's obvious with this pass rush, leading the league in sacks. You have Fred Johnson. They should be running the football, and they should be getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands quickly and efficiently. And will they do that? I don't know. They run him mostly exclusively out of the shotgun, so it's a lot tougher to do that when you're not under center. But that would be my issue with the Eagles' offense. And when you're going up against a really good defensive line like this, it will be interesting to see what they end up doing and how they end up game planning against this defense. I mentioned the Malik Nabers, but they have some. I mean, their other receivers aren't world beaters by any means. They have Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson, but Darius Slayton's had a pretty decent year. He's got 24 catches, 301 yards, and a touchdown. So a solid wide receiver 2, if you will. And Wan'Dale Robinson, their slot guys, 37 catches. That's a lot of catches, man, through 6 games for a slot receiver. 280 yards, only 7.6 yards per reception there, but 2 touchdowns. So, it's not just going to be on cue and taking away Malik Nabers. Daniel Jones has a better offense this year. Their offensive line was improved until they lost Andrew Thomas, but they're going to have to that secondary is going to have a good week this week. Hopefully Darius Slay is healthy. He's got the banged up knee, so we'll see what they're able to do there. I looked at looking at the other side. I just mentioned them missing their offensive line. Is it a Bryce Huff game? They have Jermaine Illuminor on the right tackle, and maybe he'll slide to left. I mentioned that they're not even practicing. Evan Neal, former Alabama guy. I'm an Alabama guy, so I like Evan, but boy, he has not been good. I think he was drafted 5th overall or 6th overall a couple years ago in the draft, and he has just not been good. And, you lose Andrew Thomas, and you don't even practice him at left tackle. Hard for me to believe that they would put him in at left tackle, which means there's a couple other options. Maybe they'll move Illuminor over and see what they do there. That's going to be interesting to see how they approach that. And I think that could be a good big day potentially with Josh Sweat, probably more so Josh Sweat than Bryce Huff, because I haven't seen Bryce line up on the left side too much. It's been mostly Josh Sweat over there. So we'll see how they feast on that and what their moves are for that. I'm going to give you guys my prediction on the game coming up, and then we'll run through some NFL games as well. I got to say, no Johnny Mac this morning for those just checking in. Appreciate everybody checking in this morning. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show here on Birds 365. John had some family matters to deal with this morning. The other thing this week that could be interesting is the special teams, right? The Eagles have had 3 really bad plays on special teams. The punt was blocked by the Saints. That was a big mess up there. Isaiah Rodgers pushed the defender into Cooper DeJean. That was absolutely brutal. And a muff punt, and Buccaneers recovered that, by the way. And then the field goal block versus the Browns. So 3 muffs there on special teams. You don't want to let them become a story, because if they become a story, it means they ultimately hurt your game plan for winning. And you don't, that's never what you want out of the special teams unit. So Eagles got to clean that up. For me, my prediction on the game today, this weekend, on Sunday, week 7, Let's see. I didn't even pick a score yet. I'll tell you this. I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning. I just think they have too much talent to win. They're going to win in this football game. I think the defense is still a little spotty for me. And I'm not as down on the Daniel Jones offense as many are. So I think the Giants are going to get up into the 20s. So I'll put the Giants right around 21. And I don't know if the Birds are going to be good enough yet to crack back into that 30 range. They got a lot of stuff to clean up on that offense. So I'll go 27-21 here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think 27-21 is a good score. If I change the score, it's possible. What I won't be changing is who's going to win. I do not think the Giants are going to win this football game. I think it's an Eagles win this weekend. Appreciate everybody leaving their score predictions. I will get through a couple of them. Niall says 24-17 Eagles. I like that score. I just think the Giants are going to put up a little bit more than that. Ian says 27-14 Birds. Ian, you have the big day for the defense then. Abe says 25-20 Eagles. Abe, I like that score because that means a lot of shit has to happen. 25 is not a common number in the NFL. So we'll see what they end up doing there. 31-7 for Gorby. Gorby, I do not see that. Dirty Air says 27-13. I'm assuming these are all Eagles wins. Perez says 47-10. Come on, Perez. Paul Mancini checks in. Giants are the best defensive team the Eagles have faced this year. Touchdowns will be hard to come by. No doubt, Paul. Appreciate you checking in, man. Always have a good take on the game, and we appreciate that. Let's go to a super chat here. Prince checking in. Prince, good to see you, man. I hope you're doing well. He says, wow, Kurt Warner doubled down and dropped a video showing that it's Jalen. This is bad. It's the blueprint to the Eagles offense. Yeah, I was watching that video this morning, Prince. I left a comment. I'm going to go back and finish it when I get off the show this morning. Look, I've been saying it on Cilio. It's not good, Prince. The only thing we can hope for at this point is that Jalen takes strides forward, gets better as a passer, and ultimately, develops in the areas we need him to develop in, and that's managing the game. So we'll see what he can do. But I did see that video. Go check that out, everybody. Kurt Warner does a really good job. Like I said, if you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. But Kurt Warner played in the league at a high level. There are dudes all over that played in this league at a high level that talk about it. Cilio mentioned Joe Montana talking about guys like Brock Purdy. I listen to those type of dudes when I'm trying to analyze quarterbacks. So I don't always rely on myself. I listen to Kurt Warner, and he shows me the problem, and I'm like, well, shit, Kurt making a lot of sense right now. Flexing and stepping. You can see that video. I'm sure it'll pop up on your YouTube feed, brother. He put it up. I was watching it actually this morning. Yeah, it's on the Kurt Warner XQB Confidential channel. He put it up yesterday. It's called Eagles Offensive Concepts Cater to Hurts. NFL Week 6 Review. Kurt Warner Game Tape Breakdown. Very good. Kurt Warner is really good. Terry Hayes checks in, our JAKIB Legend member. 28-21 Eagles win. I like that score. Mine was 27-21, so we're right in the same ballpark. I will say the notable part about my pick is it has the Eagles covering the spread. And I do not know if the Eagles will cover the spread because they have been 0 for 6 or something versus the spread in the last, I forget how many games. It's not been good. The Eagles have not covered the spread in a long time. We had a betting expert on the night show last night, This Week in Pro Football. Not been good. The Eagles do not bet the Eagles against the spread. They haven't covered it in a while. So it'll be interesting to see what, if the Eagles do cover it. So I think it's 3 this week, and I have them winning by 6. So, I don't believe in this Giants team. I think they're better than people are giving them credit for. I think it's going to be a closer game than people are thinking. I do not anticipate a Mr. Perez 40. What did he say? Mr. Perez checked in and said 47-10. Perez, look, you can see, and if you look at the screen, everybody, you can see Perez has a big eagle tattoo on his arm. I expect him to pick 47-10. Appreciate you, Perez, for being in here, brother. But that eagle tattoo is talking to you too loud. I don't know about 47-10. Philly D checks in. Warner, no sugarcoating. No doubt about it. If you guys have any questions, I'll take a couple questions from the chat. I do want to run through some NFL games. We'll go NFL Week 7 and look through some of them and see. It's actually a pretty good slate. I got to be honest. I did not watch a single second of the NFL game last night. Broncos won 33-10 over the Saints, which is pretty wild to think about. Broncos are finding their rhythm with Bo Nix. They're 4-3. Saints started 2-0, and I guess you could say we unraveled their season. They're now 2-5, 5 straight losses for the New Orleans Saints. But I watched playoff baseball last night. What an incredible game that Yankees game was. Holy mackerel. Bottom of the eighth, or was it top of the eighth? 2 outs. Yankees were down 3-1. Aaron Judge came to the plate with a runner on first. He cranked a 2-run homer and tied the ball game with 2 outs in the eighth, right? Giancarlo Stanton comes up, back-to-back home runs. Yankees take the lead 4-3. And then Jazz Chisholm got on. I thought he had a chance. He stole second. I thought they could take another bigger lead there. They got the Guardians got out of the inning. And then you go to the bottom of the ninth, and they're down 5-3, and they crank a 2-run homer with 2 outs. It was unbelievable. And then another 2-run bomb in extra innings in the 10th inning. It was just that's why I love October baseball. It is one of the best sports to watch. Outside of, I think, the NHL playoffs, the MLB playoffs are my favorite thing to watch. Just unbelievable. Flexing that step, and I know you're a big Yankees fan. If you guys want a funny story, maybe some in the chat will judge me harshly for this story. Flexing, you'll like this, though. When I was very young, I want to say, what was I? This was 2009, so I guess I was 11 years old. I was born in 1998. My teams right now, I guess you could say, I didn't grow up a super big fan of the Phillies or the Flyers. They were the 2 Philly teams I didn't like. I was always an Eagles fan, and I was always a Sixers fan growing up. In 2009, I mentioned my dad. My dad grew up, for those who don't know, my dad grew up in the projects. He had one television channel growing up, one TV channel. So you can't bash him. One TV channel growing up in the projects. He was working since he was 9 years old, delivering newspapers. The one station my father got was the New York Football Giants station and the New York Yankees. Those were the 2 teams that my dad as a kid had the chance to watch. That was it. He had nothing else on his television. It was those. Those are the 2 sports teams he could watch. So he was a massive Yankees fan. Now, in 2009, when the Phillies went to the World Series versus the Yankees, my cousins are diehard Phillies fans. We all went up to a game at the inaugural season of Yankee Stadium, and I believe it was game 2 of the World Series in 2009 at the World Series. And I was dripped out in Yankees gear. I had a Yankees hat on. I had a Yankees jersey on. My brother had a big Yankees coat on. So I still look at that picture today. And my cousins are decked out in Phillies gear. And I laugh at that all the time because when I grew older, I became more of a fan of the Phillies. But I still do have a soft spot in my heart for the Yankees because of my dad and my brother. So pretty funny, though, that I was rocking the Yankees gear as an 11-year-old kid at a World Series game in 2009. I have the picture. I'd love to pull it up for you guys. Ian East says that's child abuse. That's not child abuse. Ian East, I was at a game 2 of a World Series, man. I was taking it all in, enjoying the hell out of that. So appreciate everybody. That was a crazy game last night. Let's run through some of the NFL games this weekend. Lions-Vikings is probably the game of the week in the NFC, man. Lions-Vikings, that's a 1 o'clock game. That's a shame that's a 1 o'clock game because I'll be working, obviously, with the pregame and the postgame show. We'll be covering the game, and we'll be talking about that. But Detroit, probably the best team in the NFC, and then Minnesota is the best record in the NFC. They're 5-0 coming into this game. Detroit has really found their rhythm. Now, they lost Aiden Hutchinson versus the Cowboys. So as happy as they were to probably beat up on the Cowboys, you lose a player like Aiden Hutchinson. That's a big loss, man. So that's going to be a great game. I'm going to take Detroit in this game. I think they're too good. I think the Vikings finally get in the L column, and they lose that game. I'm going to say Detroit wins that game. And I'll take Detroit. That's in Minnesota. So interesting. That's a good place to play, obviously. We have a warm place in our heart for Minnesota. That's where Nick Foles and Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we like that stadium. We appreciate that. I think the Lions get the win, though, in Minnesota this weekend. Titans-Bills, that's kind of a meh AFC game. Bengals-Browns. the tale of two shitty AFC teams. Texans, Packers. That's a great game. Texans, I believe, are 4-1 or 5-1. Packers are 4-2. Really finding a rhythm now. Jordan Love looking better. He's back from injury. Great game there in the NFL. That's another 1:00 game. That's in Green Bay too. I might have to take the Texans in that game, and obviously we'll want the Texans to win because the Green Bay is an NFC opponent. So now we have the tiebreaker on them because obviously we beat them in Week 1. But I'm going to take the Texans, man. C.J. Stroud is just too good right now. He's one of my top quarterbacks in the league. Pretty unbelievable watching him play. He's really, really, really talented. The Monday night game is not very good. Chargers, Cardinals. That doesn't interest me. 2 Monday night games. Ravens, Buccaneers. That's a good one. And that'll be interesting because we played the Bucs. We got throttled. And we're playing the Ravens later on in the year. I believe it's Week 13. So that's interesting to watch. That'll be a Monday. That's the first game of the Monday night doubleheader. What do you guys think of the Monday night doubleheaders, by the way? Do you guys like them? I think I like them because so many times you're left with the primetime game that's not good. Like last night, I just didn't care to watch the Saints and the Broncos. But so I like it for that perspective. And this is a good example. If it was just Chargers, Cardinals, I'd be like, I'll watch the MLB playoffs. Ravens, Bucks, now you got a game on that's really good. So I kind of like the doubleheader for that reason. The Sunday night game is going to be interesting. The New York Jets taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4-2 Steelers. They're benching Justin Fields, which is, I don't know what you guys think of that. I'll say this. I give a lot of respect to Justin Fields for the way he handled that. You lead your team to 4-2, and you come out and you get benched. I mean, and the way he just says, "Oh, I should have been better." He's asked. You're right. I don't think he's a very good player, but Flex and I respect the way he responded to the controversy, and was benched at 4-2. Not many quarterbacks, Flex, at 4-2 will be benched, and then also not many will handle it the way that Justin did. So a lot of credit to him. That's a good game. I think the Jets are going to win, though. The Jets add Devontae Adams. You guys are ripping me for my quarterback rankings, where I had Aaron Rodgers still at number 9 on my quarterback rankings. I am not out yet on the Jets. I think they have a chance to turn it around. You look at, remember, we're here in Philly where A.J. Brown makes all the difference in the world for our offense. They add Devontae Adams, a player of his caliber. I think that Jets team. Now, the Jets' problem is their offensive line. And you have a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles who does not move as well. And he looks more pedestrian. Now, if you give him some time in that pocket, that's why a receiver, I think, is going to help him so much, especially a receiver in space. Prince says, your list was asked. Prince, I had the greatest quarterback list in the world. Prince, appreciate you, brother. I think the Jets get the win over the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. That should be a good one. NFC opponent taking on the Chiefs. San Francisco 49ers taking on the Chiefs. That's in San Francisco. I got to go Chiefs in that one, right? I mean, they're 5-0 right now. Just keep finding ways to win. And 49ers are kind of banged up. I'm a big Brock Purdy guy. You guys criticize me all the time for my love affair with Brock Purdy. I just think the dude plays the position so effectively. You watch how if you watch the 49ers game, and maybe you will, maybe you won't. It's a Sunday 4:25 game. I'll rewatch it after because I'll be doing the post-game show at that time. Watch the way Brock Purdy approaches the offense. He comes, he scans. You can tell how quickly he's picking up the defensive coverages. The dude plays the position really, really well. And I give him a lot of credit, man. I think he is a very underrated quarterback in this league. I think Brock Purdy is up there, the top 7-8 quarterbacks in the league. The way he reads and processes defenses, it's second to none, man. So I think Brock Purdy is a great player. And we'll see what he can do in that game. That's a tough game versus the Chiefs. Any other good games that are worth talking about here? Seahawks-Falcons isn't bad. Seahawks have kind of fallen off a little bit. They're 3-3. I thought they were going to be better. Kirk Cousins has found a rhythm in Atlanta. They're 4-2. That was a big rally for them to beat the Eagles. They've come off and gone on a run since that point. So I think Kirk Cousins gets the win here, though. That's in Atlanta. I like Kirk. I'm a Kirk guy. You guys, another one you guys probably will criticize me for is I like Kirk Cousins. I think he plays the game well, throws the ball effectively, gets that ball out. Good stuff there. Saquads with a dumb comment. What a stupid comment from Saquads. He says, Zander and Purdy have the same amount of facial hair. I can see why you like them. Last time I grew my facial hair, I had everybody criticize me. Barb told me to shave it. I look better. Saquads, that's a stupid comment. Brock Purdy plays the position at a high level, brother. He's good. I'll take a couple comments from you guys in the chat. Scott says, what the F happened to the Saints? You're right, man. I don't know. They started 2-0. Everybody's like, oh, the greatest team, the greatest offense. How are we going to stop then? We went in there and beat them, and they have lost 5 straight since that point. I mean, I don't know what happened to them, but they fell off a cliff, the New Orleans Saints, and now they're I don't know, they're not even going to make the playoffs. I mean, you're 2-5 right now, so we'll see. Now Christian says, I need Adams getting 18 targets. Yeah, that's those Malik Nabers numbers. Niall, we'll see what they do with him, man. I think he's going to be a big impact on that offense because here, this is why on Devontae. I really like Garrett Wilson. I don't believe Garrett Wilson is ready yet to be a number one. And I think that's going to help him a boatload. So big impact there for the Jets offense. We'll see what ends up happening there. Terry Hayes checks in with a big super chat. Terry, appreciate you, brother. Massive super chat here, $20. He says, I'm going to my high school football game tonight. They didn't win a single game last year. They're undefeated this year. They beat a team that got second in the state playoffs. We haven't beat them in 41 years, averaging 40 points per game. Wow. Terry, I love high school football. I went to St. Joe's Prep here in the city, right up in North Philly, right off Broad Street, 17th and Girard. That was my home for 4 years. I loved it. Took the subway down there. Learned a lot taking the subway to a North Philly school. So I love that, but that means I like high school football. So Terry, you're gonna have a lot of fun there, man. Hopefully your team gets the win. Is that out in Illinois, Terry? I assume that's where I know that's where you live. I don't know if you grew up there because you said it's your high school football game. Maybe that's where you graduated from. Pretty cool though, man. Enjoy the game, Terry. That should be pretty awesome. We'll see how. Suo says Saquon jersey giveaway incoming this weekend. I think you're right. Let me check Prince here. Prince says a man told you to shave your beard and you did it because you look better. That's odd. Prince, you're right, but that's not why I did it. I got to keep a professional look, and my beard doesn't come in good enough yet to keep it, bro. I shaved it because I wanted to shave it, and it was actually Barb. If Barb is a woman, we don't know. Maybe she's behind a anonymous account. She's the one who told me to shave it. So technically, it wasn't a man, or at least a perceived man. Prince. So F out of here with that comment. Appreciate all you guys though. Terry Hayes says high school is awesome. Yeah, man, high school football is great. Abe checks in and says, Zander, you ever check out the routes for Kellen Moore in 22? Looks similar to what Hurts has been doing since last season. Yeah, I mean, Abe, look, this is one of the problems. With the offense. I think it's more on Jalen Hurts than it is on Kellen Moore. And I don't have when I say that, I'm not trying to criticize the quarterback. I mean, you're going to do what the quarterback likes, right? And that's what they're doing. But the question is, how effective is it becoming, and have defenses caught up to it? Many times they have. So we'll see, what they do there. But I did watch that, and I'm going to finish up the Kurt Warner video when I get out of here this morning. Barb is definitely a man. Barb, are you in here to defend yourself? Barb, defend yourself, please. Barb, come on, man. You guys are picking on Barb. Why you guys so hard on Barb in the chat? I like Barb. Mad Bird checks in. I think Adams makes them more competitive, so maybe some of those losses turned into a win, but I don't see him making much of a difference. Matt, here's the thing. If Greg Zuerlein hit a couple kicks, that Jets team might be 4-2 right now. So you add a player of Adams' caliber. I think he switches a lot of those closest games into wins, and the NFL is a game of inches, my man. So I think he'll make a big difference for them, and we'll see. Abe follows up and says, exactly, Zander. Bad scheme for this quarterback, yet Hurts ain't doing well himself. No, he's not. He is not. Terry says, class of 2010, born and raised here in Olney, Illinois. Terry, you're a little bit older than me. I was high school class of 2016. So you're, 6 years older than me? Yeah, so good stuff there, brother. You're in your early 30s. Appreciate you being a big member here, a big supporter of the channel. I'm probably going to get out of here soon, everybody. It's not so easy to do Birds 365 for a full 2 when you don't have John McMullen. I'll run through a couple more things in this game as we prepare for it. First quarter scoring. Let's talk about it. Will the Eagles get on track? First quarter scoring. What's your guys' predictions? Put it in the chat. I got to take a sip of the water here. Will the Eagles score a touchdown in the first quarter versus the Giants? It's a yes or no. Drop it in the chat. Well done, Zander. E&E says, appreciate it. Scott says, we score points this week. Good show, Z. Flex, appreciate you, brother. Ian says, no. Akbar says, you're doing great, Z. Keep going. Appreciate you, Akbar. Kevin Savard says, yes. Kevin, I like it. Prince with a hell no. Appreciate you, Prince. Abe says, yes. Matthew says, yes. Ian with an all capital no. No. Dad says, nope. Doubt it. I'm gonna say yes. Man. I think the Eagles come out and get a touchdown in the first quarter. Actually, I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna say the Eagles score a touchdown on their very first drive of the game. I think they march down the field and score this week versus that Giants defense. Put them on their heels immediately. That's going to make the game plan a lot easier for the Philadelphia Eagles if you get on the board early. Remember, this team is built to win from ahead. Score points early. That's why they come out and throw fucking go routes on first down like it's their job. I'm taking a touchdown here in the first drive. This Giants team, guys, I can't pick the Giants. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in them yet. Prince says he's betting against that. Look, do what you want, Prince. I don't know. Are we gonna, if we don't score again? I mean, if we don't score again, because at first I'm thinking about this problem and I'm like, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, is it being overblown first quarter scoring? Who cares if you win the game? But if you really zoom out and you're like 25% of the game, you're going to be ineffective offensively. That's not good. You're going to significantly diminish your chances at winning a lot of football games if you do that. So you got to score in the first quarter. Flex says, "What am I sipping on?" I got that Mountain Valley water, man. This is my shit. I spend money on Mountain Valley water because that's some good water. I like that stuff, man. The Mountain Valley water. I actually switched to the jugs. So they do like this jug service. They deliver the jugs to you, but it's a pain in the ass. So sometimes I just go and buy a case of the big bottles. And every time I do it, if someone thinks I'm sipping on a 40 or a Heineken, I'm like, no, it's just water, everybody. I'm not a drinker. I do not drink at all. Like I haven't had a drink probably since my brother's wedding. I'm not a drinker at all. Never liked drinking since I left college. Maybe what happened was I had so many drinks in college that I had enough to satisfy my quota for life. Saquon says, Zander using our money to buy fucking water, bro. No, I'm using it to pay Cilio and McMullen, my friend. I'm not using it for that. I get a couple peanuts at the end that I use for some water. I'm trying to buy a house too, man. I got to put away some money to try and buy a house. It's tough, man. We're young in this world. Trying to buy homes. Home prices are what, 3 times what they used to be? It's pretty insane trying to get ahead in this world right now. So no, it's not all going to water, Saquon. But that's a pretty funny comment by you. Appreciate the support, man. Good stuff. Eduardo says, my boy knows his water. No doubt. Good stuff there. First quarter scoring, though, I said it. I think they're going to score in the first drive and correct the ship. We'll see what they do. I think that's going to be a big thing here. And then defense. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball and talk a little bit about the defense. They have they're not no turnovers. They are tied for dead last in the league in turnovers created. Is that a product of the players? Is that a product of Vic Fangio's system? Is that a product of the team? What do you guys think? I think that's a big problem. I mean, one of the reasons that we had such a remarkable 2022 run is because our defense was creating turnovers. When you're tied for bottom of the league, you're not creating much and you're not giving your offense a huge chance. So, I think that's a big issue here. We'll see what they're able to do. Anthony Wilson, look at that. He says, man, I just bought my house, $365K for 2,900 square feet. Anthony, you gave me something that I know about you now. You're in Texas, my man. When I was in Texas, I dreamed of I would drive by a house that was a freaking man, as you point out, 2,900 square feet, a big ass house, and it's like 240. I'm like, yo, you come up where we are in the Northeast, man. 500 grand barely buys you a livable house to try and raise a family and start a life in. So, good big shout out to you though, man. Congrats on buying your first house. Or I don't know if it was your first, but a house for 365. Good stuff, man. Appreciate your support of the channel as well. Dad says Florida's the same. Yeah, a lot cheaper down there, man. This Northeast is no joke. I mentioned yesterday my brother and his wife announced they're having a kid. They're the big New York fans. He's New York everything, my brother. He's not a football guy, so he's not really a Giants fan, but big Yankee fan, big Ranger fan. And he's in New York. So I'm looking, I was thinking about maybe because I can do this business from anywhere, I was thinking maybe I'll move up, toward North Jersey and be close to my brother. I obviously want to have a big impact on his kid's life. And it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. I'll tell you that. Jason A-Team says 500K. Where are you looking for houses, man? I'm looking for houses around where I live in the suburbs. I mean, somewhere where I can raise a family. A-Team. It's not pretty, man. I don't know if you're in the house market, but it's really not pretty. It's not good at all. And then I have my one hobby, my one thing I like is I like a garage. And I like cars. I'm a big Mustang guy. I love cars. So like when I buy a house, I'm like, if I'm going to dump my life savings into a house, I got to at least have a damn garage. I got to at least have a spot to park my car, build my little man cave, if you will. And it's hard to find, man. It's hard to find. Fly Parks is 500K's average. You're right. It really is. And I can't afford 500K. Who are we kidding? But shit, that's what I'd like to do. So, when you add in those stipulations, you can't really go into the city. It's harder to go into the city. I'm not a huge city guy. I mean, I went to school in the city, so I like the city. But I wouldn't particularly want to live in the city. I'm happy with the suburbs and, I like that style of living. So, we'll see. Niall says Houston housing affordable once you get outside downtown. Yeah, Niall. I actually lived, Niall, when I lived in Houston for 2 years, and I assume that's where you are. I lived right next to the Minute Maid Park where the Astros play, literally right next to it. I think the apartment complex is Lofts at the Ballpark, I believe it's called, right next to the ballpark. So I lived in the city in Houston. It was dope, man. I went to the World Series game in 2019 when it was Game 7, and they lost to the Nationals. I think it was 2019. I want to say it was 2019. You guys would have to check the World Series, but I was at that game. It was pretty cool, man. Niall said, I know exactly where you were at. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, look, Houston's a cool city. Not my favorite, but it was good time, man. Texas is cheap. That's what I liked about it. You could get by on a much less money. And I've always been an entrepreneur, really since I was like 14, 15 years old. I've had my own business and doing my own thing. And it's, you got to put away money. You got to be frugal. You got to make the right decision. So I like that about Houston. Akbar says, I used to live in South Jersey, went to school with Jaguar Wright and Ron Dane. Very cool, bro. I know you're a Philly guy now, Akbar. I could tell by the way you talk. You talk just like a Philly guy. Yeah, and that's not a knock, by the way. That's a credit to you. But I bring you on and I'm like, nah, that's a Philly dude right there. I know my Philly dudes. That's a Philly dude right there. So I'm surprised to hear you lived in South Jersey. But good stuff, everybody. Thanks for all the support. I love chopping it up with you guys. No John this morning. If you're just checking in and you're looking for the typical Birds 365, John had a death not in his family, his wife's best friend's mother, I think he said it was. But John is tending with some family matters today. They're having everybody at his house this morning, so he couldn't be on the show, and then he's got the viewing and stuff today. So appreciate John. John joined for the top 35 minutes of the show, and we broke down the game, which was pretty cool of John to do. I'll take it. You know what I'll do is we're already at 9:26, and we're almost at 10 a.m. for crying out loud. We almost done 2 hours. Appreciate everybody helping me with the show, with the content this morning. I'll take a commercial break, catch my breath a little bit, and I'll go to 10 a.m. and we'll chop up some more of this game. Keys to victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll get into that. and then what to take away from the Giants if you're the Eagles coming into this game. Giants have a couple things that can beat you. We'll talk about what to take away from there. So appreciate everybody being in here. Hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365 in 3 minutes.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365, a football Friday, preparing for NFL Week 7. Eagles taking on the Giants this weekend. First NFC East matchup of the year for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see how they handle that. It's at MetLife Stadium up in New York. We'll see, or it's in Jersey, actually, but up at their stadium. So we'll see how the Eagles do that. The Giants are 2-4. The Birds are 3-2. I think the Eagles are a much better football team than the New York Giants. So Eagles should handle business, but that's what we'll be prepping for, and we will dive more into that game. Right here and right now. I'm going to answer some chats from people. Saquon says, I'm going to invite Jason Lombardi to my wedding. I feel like I've known the guy for years. Saquads, here's a good insight right now on DryTech for everybody. I grew up, as I mentioned, playing hockey. I played hockey at a pretty high level. I was on my AAA team, which is like the top travel you could do until you get to like the juniors and start to play D1. I wasn't good enough to play D1. I'm not tall enough. I'm 5'10". I was a goalie. But one of the teams I played for the longest time is Jason Lombardi's brother. Kevin Lombardi is his younger brother, and he plays Division I hockey right now at Sacred Heart. I think he has a chance to go to the NHL if the cookie crumbles his way. But I played hockey with Kevin Lombardi for years. He was my best friend on the team. We would carpool because I played all the way out in Mercer, and my dad was working like a dog, obviously, working his ass off to put me through St. Joe's Prep and all those things. So we had practice 3 nights a week. He would take me up to the Home Depot, about 10 minutes up the road on 611, right up, like you're driving out to Doylestown, right at the start of the turnpike there. and Kevin Lombardi and his father, who's also Jason, I believe, and his older brother is Jason. He would pick me up and we'd carpool to practice every single week. So I have very fond memories of the Lombardi family. They are very good people. Jason is Kevin's older brother, and then I think his father's name is also Jason, if I'm not mistaken. But they're great people, man, and they started Dry Tech. His father started Dry Tech, so that's how we got him as a sponsor. They're awesome people, and go definitely give Dry Tech a shout. But Kevin Lombardi's a great hockey player. If you're into hockey, check him out. He plays Division I at Sacred Heart University. I think he's an assistant captain on that team. He is a goal scorer, man. A wicked, nasty shot. He is a great player, but great insight there on Dry Tech. I love Jason. Jason's a good dude too, man. He played at LaSalle High School, and I played at St. Joe's Prep, so we went up against him many a times. In high school, that was a big rivalry, obviously, in the high school world. In the PCL, the Philadelphia Catholic League, proud Catholic, I tell everybody that all the time. So good stuff there, good insight on on Jason Lombardi and Dry Tech. Let's get into this game a little bit. The keys to the game, for this game. What would be some of your guys' keys? Because when I look at it, I'm like, Saquon Barkley would be a key for me, right? Set it up, run the ball. Open things up for Jalen Hurts. But every time I say that, I laugh to myself because the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't seem to run their offense that way. They almost seem to run it in a backwards type of way where you run out and you throw a go ball on first down. And I'm like, why do you do that? Why would you do that? But that's Eagles' way. It's weird. I almost think they run it ass backwards. So the keys to the game that I have are probably not going to be applicable. When you think about it, this Giants run defense is not very good. Second worst in the league in yards per carry at like 5.3, somewhere in that range. You got to run the ball with Saquon, but I don't know if they're going to do that because every time the thing that pisses me off about this Eagles team as an Eagles fan, and maybe many of you guys will resonate. We're diehard fans, and we're gonna root for the team no matter what. Sometimes it feels like they defy common sense, where you look at the game, you look at the opponent, you look at who you have on your offensive roster, you look at your offensive line, and you're like, okay, just bully them, open up the passing game, let Jalen find AJ and Devontae a couple times here and there. You'll have some big chunk plays and win the game. But the Philadelphia Eagles don't do that. They defy common sense over and over and over again, and I believe it's an organizational thing, and that's the one thing that drives me crazy, man. With this team is I just think sometimes they defy what I want, what seems so obvious to me to do, and that's the big issue I have with them. From a key to the game standpoint on the defensive side, that defensive line is going to be a massive key to this game. When you talk about no Andrew Thomas, their left tackle, who's really the best signing they've had in a long time, really bolstered their offensive line. Now he's out for the year. It's going to have to be a Josh Sweat day. Jalen Carter is going to have to show up. That offensive line is not that good. And Daniel Jones is getting Malik Nabers back. So you got to speed up his clock a little bit, put him under pressure, and make his clock speed up. So that defensive line is probably the biggest key to the game on the defensive side for me. And then you go to the offensive side. I mentioned for me it'd be Saquon Barkley, but maybe the Eagles won't have that approach, and then it becomes Jalen Hurts would be the key for me. Everything starts and stops with him. I've been critical of the quarterback in recent weeks. I think he has to be better. He has to get better. And you talk about people are catching on to the offensive problems, and I think more and more people are learning it's not all on Nick Sirianni. I still get a lot of shit in the chat when I say it's not as Nick Sirianni as we're thinking. It's more quarterback based. It's what the quarterback likes to run. It's potentially more simple because the quarterback is still acclimating as a player, and that's the issue. So the quarterback's going to have to be good in this one. He was good last week. I will give him that. He was good last week versus the Browns, but still a very elementary offense, if you will, where there's not a lot going into it. It's not complex. It's still based on Hurts seeing half the field. And I think you're going to have an issue with that. So, we'll see. Big shout out to AJ Jones, by the way, one of our newest subscribers. AJ, appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Hope you enjoy the content, what we do here, AJ. And if you're new, I'll give you a rundown on how we operate. We have live shows from 8 to 10 a.m. So Bird 365, this is normally with John McMullen, who's out. He has a funeral he's attending to this morning. 8 to 10 a.m. is the live shows. And then 2 to 6, the National Football Show with Dan Cilio, the best sports show on YouTube. The best sports show on YouTube is National Football Show with Dan Cilio. Whether you love him, whether you hate him, the dude knows his stuff, and he's been right about this team a lot in the last couple of years. So check him out, and then all the videos you'll see posted are clippings and highlights from the show. So AJ, if you ever see the content, man, appreciate it. Hit that like button. I know you are supporting a family-owned shop, a family-owned channel, and we appreciate that, AJ. Appreciate you checking in. He drops a $2 super chat and says, 2 ints for the defense this game, calling it now. Well, AJ, shit, we would have had one last week if C.J. Gardner-Johnson would have let my man Quinyon Mitchell cook. But CJ jumps right in front of it, so ball happy. That was an easy first pick for Quinyon Mitchell. Played great defense on that play, an underthrown ball by Deshaun Watson, and freaking CJ Gardner-Johnson gets right in the way. That pissed me off. And you could see freaking Quinyon Mitchell, the anger on his face, man. The anger on his face was so pissed off. He's like, I wanted that pick. He had that pick, and he locked him down, man, perfectly. That was great coverage by Quinyon. But, AJ, you put 2 ints. Who you got having the interceptions? I'll take Quinyon Mitchell on one of them. But, AJ, who you think Slay picks up an interception? You think Cooper DeJean, who looks a lot better in the slot than Avonte Maddox did, does he get an interception? Or maybe you go one of the safeties, Reed Shiesty, Ed Reed Blankenship. What do we call him? The milkman? What do they call him? I know everybody uses the milk phrase because he's a white dude. We got the milk. We got a bunch of milk back there with Reed and Cooper DeJean. It's like the milk backfield right there, if that's what you want to call it. But who you got getting your picks? He says Quinyon and big homie Reed. I like it, AJ. Reed's pretty good, man. Reed is pretty good. He's underrated. I like this. Daz says secondary or the milk missile. Brian Chalkins. Man, I wish some of these nicknames would go viral because, bro, that is hilarious. Chalk Dog. Man, y'all hilarious. Could never call him the milkman or milk middle. Milkman. Yeah, I couldn't. Milk missile, I think you meant. I couldn't call him that either. I'm not going to call him that. I call Quinyon Mitchell the silent assassin. That's why I like that nickname for Q. I think somebody pointed out that I gave him that nickname a couple weeks when he first got in the league. And he's that quiet dude. He doesn't seem like he'd be in your face. And then the game starts and he's chirping at you, making plays. He's got the mentality you need as a cornerback in the league to succeed. And that's what I love most about Quinyon Mitchell. He's very in your face. He does not give a shit. He plays with the swagger that you need. You gotta be a different type of dude to be a cornerback, right? You got to have a short memory and you got to believe that you're the best on the field no matter what time it is. Because you're going up against some of the best athletes in the world at wide receiver. It takes a different type of beast to be a cornerback. And I think Quinyon Mitchell has it. And I'm super happy because a lot of times this front office be drafting dudes that I just don't see have that beast in them, that dog in them, as you guys point out in the chat. Mitchell, I think he does, man. He might be Howie Roseman's best defensive draft pick. We'll see. But I am a big fan of Quinyon Mitchell. DRC, none of the above, my friend. None of the above, at least not right now. I told you I'm not a drinker, so you know what other things I got to indulge in. But I do not do it when I'm on the air, bro. Cannot do it on the air. Any other comments I will take from the chat. Prince says, Zander, Reed is terrible. Prince, you think Reed's terrible? He's not terrible. I mean, he's got his deficiencies for sure, but he grades out pretty well, Prince. He does a good job. He's also created, I think he has 2 picks already this year. I know he had the game ceiling pick, but I think he's underrated, Prince. I mean, it would be tough for me to say he's terrible. He might not be a a world beater, but I don't think he's terrible at all. No doubt about it. I don't think he's terrible. We'll see here. Let's go to G.I. Zoe. G.I. Zoe, appreciate it, brother. Appreciate you being here. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. G.I. Zoe says, Zander, what's your take on Howie vision? The vision of hiring a puppet yes man coach so you can keep power like the little insecure guy you are. G.I., I think you're right. But G.I., here's where I'd push back on you. Do you believe that it's Howie who wants to hire the puppets, or do you believe it's an organizational philosophy that's built on analytics that comes from the top that tells Howie exactly what type of players to sign, what type of coaches to sign, and exactly how to run your football team? That would be my bigger question, because I think that some of the problems that you bring up here with Howie are deeper than Howie. And I think Howie does a really good job at managing money. And by the way, as a business owner, as a guy that manages money and manages a checkbook, manages employees with Cilio and John, I understand the value in having a guy that manages your money. But when you go to the football side of things, a lot of the decisions they make me wonder if the organizational philosophy has plagued this franchise. Like, if you think about Jalen Hurts for a second, and this is not a criticism of our quarterback, so do not take it as such. But if I told you, right, if you didn't know anything and I blanked your mind on your knowledge of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I told you have an organization that wants to pass the ball, they believe in passing to get the lead, they believe in big chunk plays, and they don't believe as much in ground and pound it power type of football where you run the ball and set up the pass. They believe in passing the ball. Would you sign Jalen Hurts to a $50 million contract? Think about that. And that's not a criticism of the quarterback. But if that's your offensive philosophy, if that's what you want to be as an organization, why are you taking a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who has so many talents and abilities and skills outside of just throwing the ball, and build a passing offense around? Why? Like, where is the common sense in that, right? I don't see, and that's what pisses me off. Like, why do you take Jalen Hurts and put him in this offense? Why? You have a dude that's a dynamic athlete, a dynamic runner, a decent thrower of the football. I don't think he's a bad thrower of the football. I think he's decent. I don't think his specialty is walking up to the line, dissecting a defensive coverages, switching into the right passing play and getting the ball out and lining up under center and play action. That's not our quarterback. But that's what they want him to be, and they're doing it from the shotgun. It just doesn't make sense. And that's where I wonder, G.I. Zoe, to answer your question, if it's deeper than Howie. If it's more of an organizational thing, if a lot of it comes down to the owner, I don't know. It's interesting to think about. I don't know what you guys think of what I just said. But, Philly 444 says 50 mil is the market. Philly, you missed my point. I'm not mad Jalen Hurts is paid, brother. I'm happy. I'm honestly ecstatic for the dude. He's taken care of for life. His family is set for life. It's awesome for him. I love to watch a man get paid. I really do. And I'm not a pocket watcher either. I hate that. But I'm happy for the dude. But if that's your philosophy, Philly, as an organization, is to pass the football over the top, almost so much so that it defies common sense, why would you sign a quarterback like Jalen Hurts? Why? What would be the logic behind that? Now, if you're the Ravens and you have much more versatility in your thought processes, and you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, and you see what a dynamic athlete, what a dynamic player, let's build it around that skill set. It makes a whole lot of sense. I think Jalen Hurts has a spot in this league as a starting quarterback. I just question why it was in Philly when you look at what the owner wants and what the organization wants, and it's proven every week in their game plan. I mean, it's go ball. It's go balls like crazy. It really is. We do not run a traditional ground and pound offense. And by the way, that's with the top 5 offensive line that's making what, $100 million? They don't even use the offensive line. They don't even use their best asset that 90% of teams in the league don't have. Right? There's a lot of teams that have a great wide receiver. There's a lot of teams that have an above average quarterback. There's a lot of teams that have a great running back. There's a lot of teams that have a good tight end. There is not a lot of teams that have a great offensive line. And when I say great, I mean great. A great offensive line. Why don't we use them? Why don't we line up behind them, put the ball in Jalen's hands or Saquon's hands, and let those offensive linemen bully you into oblivion? Why don't we do it? It defies common sense. It doesn't make sense. So to answer your question or your comment there, Philly, it's not about the money. I don't care about the money, man. I really don't. It's not about the money at all. I'm happy. Like I said, I'm happy Jalen Hurts is getting paid. It's great for him. But why would you try and move him into something he's not? It doesn't make sense to me. And I think the organization needs to back off this approach that they have that they believe is the only one that works or the only one that's right, and let Jalen Hurts grow in the areas that make sense for him as a quarterback. And I don't believe they're doing that right now. Philly 444 says, this point makes sense. Just remember, I'm Jalen's big brother. You pick on him on the playground, you have to fight me. Hey, I respect that logic. I really do. I have no issue with that. And I'm not trying to pick on Jalen Hurts. I think he has deficiencies. I really do. And I think some of them are potentially too big to overcome. But the reason I say they're too big to overcome is more about what they're trying to do with him than what he is. If you run 22's offense and you add to that slowly, and you take a Todd Monken approach like they did in Baltimore, and you let Saquon Barkley be a power. See, this is why I wanted Derrick Henry, because I knew the power back was going to be the perfect fit with a guy like Lamar Jackson, but I digress. But if you do that and you do those things, I think Jalen Hurts can be a great quarterback in this league. I think he can be good enough to march this team to the Super Bowl. But we don't use him like that. We don't even try and use them like that. Guys, go watch the first drive last week versus the Browns. We ran the ball on first down, and I'm like, holy shit, what a surprise. I can't believe they did that. And then it was two near go. One of them was a go ball, and the other one was a 20-yard route to the hash, outside the hash marks to A.J. Brown. Why are we doing that? Why is that the way we set up our offense in games? It does not make sense. Especially with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who doesn't thrive on dropping back and being a pocket passer. It just does. Like I said earlier in the show, many times, and this is what pisses me off about the team that we all root for and bleed green for. They defy common sense. Why? It doesn't make sense to me. It pisses me off. AJ Jones checks in, one of our newest subscribers. Appreciate it, AJ. Didn't we run under center in Brazil? First drive, we should come out with that. We did. We had a different looking game plan in Brazil than we've seen recently, AJ Jones. That's a good point by you. It wasn't a lot of under center. It was more under center. I mean, Daz brings up the number there, AJ. It wasn't overwhelming. Daz has 181 dropbacks, 11 plays under center this year for Hurts. Now, I'm going to ask a question that I'd like all of our viewers right now to check in on and give me what you guys think. Daz, do you have a problem with those numbers? Because when you think about the style, the quarterback style, he's not an under center type of quarterback. He's not a play action type of quarterback. So there's the line of thinking that, like I just said, you're not using the quarterback right as it is right now. Would under center be right too? I don't think that would be right either. Now, you could argue that would be better. But what's your thinking with that? Because Jalen's not an under center type of guy. And I think they want to leverage the ability he has in the legs. And that's why they keep him in shotgun so much. So it's hard for me to push back on that when I just said what I said about, build around the assets of the quarterback, which they don't do at all. I think there's a little bit of a basic assumption that when you're an NFL quarterback and you're paid $50 million and you're a top guy and you're 5 years in the league, you should be able to line up under center anyway, right? I mean, how hard is it, right? I mean, line up under center, hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley. It's not that freaking hard, make the defense guess a little bit. I don't know. Am I wrong in thinking that? I am a little bit tired of the excuse of oh, Jalen's not under the center guy. Why? I get it. You want to keep them in shotgun, but you have 65 to 70 plays a game. Run them in shotgun 35 times. Put them under center 20 to 30 times. Keep the defense on their heels. I mean, I don't know. Akbar says Mike Vick used to be in shotgun all the time too. It's true. He ran a lot of shotgun. Now, Mike Vick was a lot more of a dynamic, I would say at least a lot more of a dynamic runner than Jalen is. Jalen's pretty dynamic, but Mike Vick, bro. Mike Vick could run. Mike Vick had a cannon, Akbar. Mike Vick had a absolute cannon on his arm. Actually, it was the left arm. He could throw that rock, man, and it was fun to watch him play. He was one of my favorite Eagles quarterbacks. But I don't know. I do think it defies logic sometimes why the Eagles do what they do, and I think this comment right here is great. David LaPrade checks in. Appreciate you, David. He says overthinking the offense. I think you're right, man. I think you're 100% right. That he's overthinking it. Bobby says obviously Hurts is limited. Yeah, Bobby, he is, but this is who we have now, Bobby. So when you analyze the team, you can't just approach every conversation with, "Oh, Hurts is limited, and we're going to suck until he's gone." Well, we're going to suck for 3 years. That's a tough approach. I'm not going to take that approach. I'm not going to lay down for pasture, and lay down like a dead dog and just assume that we're going to suck for 3 years. You got to look at the quarterback you have. You got to look at what he does well. You got to look at what the offense does well, and you got to mesh the two together to find what works. And you also have to factor in the other side of the ball, the other side with the defense and who you're going up against. So many times the Eagles do not do that, and you see it when they go up against a team that can't stop a run, and they don't line up under center, and they don't hand the ball off. I mean, like I said earlier, we have a top 5 offensive line in the league. If you came down to earth from Mars right now and didn't watch football all year and turned on an Eagles game, you would say, that's not that good of an offensive line. If you watched a Lions game, you'd say that offensive line is insane. Why? Why don't we use him at all? I mean, I'm not trying to turn Jalen into Brock Purdy or anything, or put him under center all the time and run that style of offense. But don't you think we're just leaving out certain things that just make so much sense of why you would, like, why would you not run behind that O-line? You paid $100 million and you got, an O-line that's this big and this good. Why? It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's where I think it comes from the top. Richard Jackson checks in. I watched the Kurt video. There's people open, even though it was a simple office. I don't know what is the problem. Now, Richard, you've been very critical of me personally in the past on the show because I've been hard on the quarterback. Richard, I want you to read what you just wrote because I put it on the screen. Richard, are you sure you don't know what the problem is, or you just don't want to say it? Richard, you've been crushing me, Richard, in the chat for my takes on Jalen Hurts and the offense and Kellen Moore and all of those things. Now, Kurt Warner's telling you the same thing. This is what the quarterback likes, and they're not building on that. Jalen Hurts is a lot of the problem here. Now, I don't think he's the only problem. I don't think he's the only problem at all. But he's a lot of the problem, and you see Kurt Warner talk about it right now. It's what the quarterback likes, and that's why they're going to it. And Richard says the problem is Jalen turnovers. That's one of the things, Richard. But I do think that there's a basic skill. Not basic skill. I shouldn't say that because I think Jalen does so many other things well that so many people can't do. That's an asset for him. But he's limited in some of the regards in which in the ways that they're trying to use him. And DRC says Jalen loves to force shit. DRC, Jalen is forcing shit because the offense they're running around him is a pass-happy, go-deep offense. They're not making it easy for him. I know he has limitations. Like now points out one right here. Hurts definitely a lot of the problem. He's a 2-read QB at best. Yeah, and even when he gets to that second read now, you can start to see him shaking in the pocket. I said yesterday, he gives me agita. Watching him in the pocket, it makes me uneasy. I shake, and I'm like, what are you? Drives me crazy. He's not comfortable in the pocket. So you got to build around that. And they're not doing a good job at that. Now, he has his deficiencies, no doubt about it. And I'm not going to deny them. I don't sit here and deny them. But I'm also, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and assume we're going to be a bad football team for 3 years because Jalen Hurts is our quarterback. I did watch the young man lead us to a Super Bowl. I did watch the young man put on an near MVP campaign. Now, where Cilio is right is that's becoming more of a blip on the radar. That's becoming more of a one-off, if you will, where he has to get back to that form. But like I said, I can't deny my own eyes. Like, I know there's some part of him in there. There's some part inside Jalen and inside the offense we can build around him that would lead to success. I know it's there. I don't think the organization is committed to going to that and using that and leveraging that. I think they're stuck in the ways of what they want to do. They want to be a passing offense. They want to have big plays in the passing game. They want to have chunk plays. And it's not just Nick Sirianni. It's the organization. And they're stuck in it. And that's why it's holding our team back, because they refuse to look at the player they have. They refuse to build around the player they have. They refuse to simplify the game for him in ways that will make him better. They refuse to do it. And these problems are all the more evident when you have that type of approach. You know, Niall, you can mask a two-read quarterback at best in certain ways. You really can. The problem is they're forcing this offense on down our throat. And Jalen Hurts, by the way, is because I've been critical of Jalen switching the play calls at the line of scrimmage, and I'm like, maybe just let the offensive coordinator cook up a little bit. Like, I get you're going to want to change them here and there, but changing them on 50 to 60% of the plays is foolish, especially in the first couple of drives. So I've been critical of him. But remember, Jalen is audibling within what the offense is allowing him to audible to. Right? If you let Jalen line up under center or gave him an offense that relied on a run, bullied you, and opened up the passing game in a more traditional way, maybe Jalen's audibles wouldn't be the wrong reads. Maybe the go routes would work better. But because we're so adamant to be this type of offense with this type of a quarterback, all of a sudden everything looks worse for Jalen. Every audible looks worse. Every deep ball pass that doesn't work looks worse because they're forcing it. They're forcing it. And I think it's a big issue. I really do. And like I said, African surf checks in. Zander, give it a couple more games, bro. We're not 1-4. I'm African. I'm not out on this year at all. I'm not. Like I said, I have my issues with the team, and I'm going to call them out. And when you do a show every day, African, you got to talk about this stuff because you're doing a show for 2 hours every day. You want me to sit up here and tell you how much I love the Eagles for 2 hours? I don't think you'd be watching. I'm not out on the team, but when you see problems that look like 23, when you see an approach and a philosophy and a game plan that doesn't accentuate the talents of your players or give him a chance to flourish, you have bigger questions. And African, here's my issue with your comment. We're probably going to win this weekend, right? We're going to beat the Giants. We're probably going to even beat the Bengals, and we're probably going to beat the Jaguars as well. And you're going to be 6-2. We are. And we're all going to feel pretty good, right? We're 6-2. We're near the top of the NFC. We're probably a contender for first in the NFC East at that point. And you're going to be feeling good. But the minute you get to the playoffs or you get late in the year and you find an offensive or defensive coordinator that's going to take away some of the stuff that we do, it's not going to look pretty. Right now, our problems are going to be masked, and that's the point. And you watched it happen last year. African, and that's where I think as a fan base, we have to get away from. And there's a large portion of people, and I'm not criticizing them because that's what the market dictates, but there's a large portion of people who love to hear that their team is great all the time. And that's why so many people were surprised at a collapse last year at 10-1. Meanwhile, Cilio was telling, we're 8-1, and Cilio's like, you guys aren't good. You're not good. You're not good. You're not good. And then we collapsed. And I'm like, well, Cilio kind of told me this. So I was a little bit more ready for it. So there's this large portion of the fan base, and I'm not criticizing the fans. It's like I said, it's what the market dictates, and it's a lot of it's fueled by the $5 million operation that the Eagles now employ for their media campaign and the way they talk everybody up and the big name signings and everything. And, I'm not criticizing them, but it puts us in delusion land where we believe we're a lot better than we are. The great teams in this league are great, and they're hard to beat. And you have to have a good, sound philosophy to beat them. I don't believe we have that right now. And that's why you see so many intra problems in each game. It is. I mean, we beat the Browns last week, 20-16. Did any of you guys come out of there like, woo, big win for the Birds. Let's go, baby, back in the win column? Or did you come out, oh, we won, but like, man, that didn't look good. That didn't look good. Jalen didn't look this good. That's the problem. That's the problem. And that's my fear with this team. And maybe African, maybe it is an issue where I got PTSD from last year a little bit. And I'm worried about the collapse. And I'm worried about us getting to this great record that we all hang our hat on and then we collapse. Maybe that's a part of it. And I'm open to that line of thinking. But that's going to be my line of thinking until they prove me otherwise. And right now, every time we've gone up against a competent defensive coordinator, they have made us look pretty stupid. I mean, Todd Bowles made Jalen look dumb again. He made our offense look pedestrian and simple, like it is. I listened to Pro Football Talk yesterday, and I know a lot of you guys don't like that show because Chris Sims is hard on Jalen Hurts, but he brought up a lot of good points, man, about this offense and how pedestrian and simple and predictable it still is. And it still is. That's the truth. Now, we have a great player in A.J. Brown, and he is a top 3 receiver in this football league. He is. But going to him anytime he's in single coverage and tossing the ball up and hoping he makes a play is not a recipe for long-term winning. And that's one of my fears right now. I'll take a couple more questions. We're over 10. I didn't even realize. Once you start to get going, it's a little easier to keep going. Appreciate you guys, man, for giving me some good content this morning. Appreciate everybody in the chat. As always, almost 250 watching, which is pretty good considering I don't have John McMullen. I always say people tune in for Birds 365. A lot of people comment. And they're like, Zander, you're way different on Birds 365 than you are on the National Football Show with Dan Cilio. And I say that's because I have 2 different roles. Here I'm a host, and people check in for John McMullen. And I'm fully aware of that, and I don't take that personally at all. John McMullen is a wealth of information. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he knows the inner workings of the football team. He's well connected, and people come here to get inside the Eagles, access, and Birds. So I got a different role here. By the way, speaking of my appearances with Cilio, you guys got to check out yesterday's appearance on Cilio was. I'm still laughing about our segment yesterday on the National Football Show. It was really a good segment. We talked about issues. We had a lot of fun doing it. We talked everything, man, from politics to sports to the Eagles to Jalen. Cilio told somebody to suck his balls. I think it was just unbelievable. We had a lot of fun on that show. Now you got to check out the segment. You got to check out the segment of me and Sills yesterday. He had a great show yesterday, but me and Sills yesterday was just hilarious, man. We went like an hour and change, just chopping it up. Cilio cracks me up, man. I know some of you guys don't like all of Dan's takes, but my favorite thing about Big Sills is he's a real ass dude. He really is. I've worked with a lot of people in this business in the last 4 years. People from the biggest names in Philadelphia in media, all the way to Big Sills, to John, to beat reporters, to big names, to former players, to former NBC dude. You name it. I've talked to them all. The realest dude I've ever worked with is Big Sills. Without a doubt. He's a great dude on the air and off the air. I actually view him more as a friend more than a business confidant. We have a great relationship. And Sills is just a good ass dude. And by the way, he is a tremendous broadcaster. You might not like his opinions. You roll tape for 4 hours a day, man, and you go all through the off season, and you have topics and shows and things to talk about and entertainment all day long. I don't think people give him enough credit for how hard that is. I really don't. Sills is unbelievably talented. He is one of the most talented broadcasters you'll ever find. And I don't say that biased because he's here on JAKIB. You will not find a guy that's as entertaining, talented, knowledgeable, thorough. Remember, guys, we're making TV. Like, we're not. If you just want to sit here and talk like X's and O's, like, we're not the channel for that. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're entertaining. We're talking sports. We're entertaining the chat. We're like, there's a lot more that goes into this, and Dan does it better than anybody else, man. I'll tell you that. I love Big Sills, and I'll always love Big Sills. And by the way, I think he's helped me tremendously as a broadcaster. He is a good dude. Akbar says, that's the reason we're here. They appreciate you, Akbar. Philly 444. Sills is the old dude that sits at the end of the neighborhood bar all afternoon and keeps everybody laughing. No doubt. He is a funny dude, man. He is a funny guy. I wish you guys could see him. When I produce the National Football Show, the amount of times I'm behind, and I got like 3 computers here because I got so much shit to do, post-production and clipping videos. And I got a lot of fun things I'm working on, by the way, for the channel. I'm super excited about, and everybody here has been making us grow. And I can't thank you all enough, but the amount of time I spend just belly laughing at Dan is probably good for the soul. I'll say that. It's probably good for my health, how much he has me cracking up. So it's a great show, and I encourage everybody to tune into that 2 to 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. And as I mentioned, our segment yesterday was pretty iconic. I'll take a couple more viewer chats. I love talking with you guys. Appreciate everybody for the support this morning. I know there was no John in here today, and you guys helped me out in a big way, as you always do, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to look for a couple chats to take. DRC says, when me and you go at it on this shit, bro, I put this on everything, I'd be laughing. These boys take shit way too serious. DRC, I think you're right, and that's one of the other reasons I like Cilio is, we're just talking football, everybody. We're talking sports, man. It's not supposed to be personal. It's not supposed to be an FU mentality. And I know people have that in Philly, which I'm not going to criticize, but it's all in good fun. Darkest Void checks in. We could end the season 14-3, and people will be okay with a first-round exit. This happened last season too, and it's eerily similar. If we don't get it fixed by week 12 or so, then I'm out. Well, Darkest, I'll never be out. One, because it's my life and it's my business, and it's the way I feed my family and my people. It's the way I take care of myself. So I'll never be out for that reason. But I'll never be out because I'm an Eagle fan, and I've never been out. I have my issues with the team. I'm going to call them out, and I do appreciate that I have the opportunity to do it now on a forum where people actually listen to me. I don't just speak to nobody, so I thank you guys all for that, but I'll never be out, man. I'll never be out. I hear you, though. You're right. You bring up some good points, Darkest. Appreciate that. AJ said, did I miss your score predictions, Zander? Yeah, AJ, I gave it a little earlier in the show. I gave 27-21 the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win. The reason I went with that is I think this Giants defense is a little bit better than we're expecting, and I think the Eagles are going to struggle to get to that 30-point mark again. So I have 27 on the board for the Birds. I think the Giants offense is going to be better this week with Malik Nabers back. Now they're missing Andrew Thomas. Potentially the defensive line can create a lot of pressure. 21 points for the Giants. I don't think it's going to be as low as people are expecting. Actually, you could even argue that 27 is too lofty for the Birds offense. I mean, they scored 20 last week. I think we're averaging right around 20 points a game. Not great. Not great. But I do think we're gonna get I do think we're gonna win the game. AJ, I have a hard time believing that the Giants would win this football game. And by the way, I have written on my notes here. I don't know if you guys can see that. My background fucks it all up. I have written on my notes here. If the Eagles lose, all hell will break loose because this team will have, if we lose this game, it's going to identify so many bigger issues that we have that some of us fear deep down, but we're not ready to confront. And if you lose to the Giants, all of those become very real, very real. And that's going to be the issue if the Birds lose this game. So I would say it's a must win. I mean, if you fall to 3-3 here with the Giants, with a loss to the Giants, and then you have the Bengals on the other side, Joe Burrow, obviously a star quarterback, that's going to be trouble. So I agree with John that there's no such thing as a must win. This is a must win for me. This is a must win football game. You can't lose this game, man. You can't lose this game. I went through some of the other NFL games this week. I had a lot of fun doing that as well. And then we talked some other sports as well. I'm curious if any of you guys are into the MLB playoffs like I am. I've always loved playoff baseball. Like I mentioned, my dad is a massive baseball guy because he grew up where he grew up, and he would tune into the radio, dial his little radio up to the Yankees and listen to them in the playoffs, man. And the playoff baseball is one of my favorite things to watch. So I'm done talking about the Eagles right now. I'll talk a little bit about some baseball if you guys, if you want to chop it up about that. Scott, dude, the Dodgers look lights out right now. They just throttled. I forget. I mean, I fell asleep last night, but I was watching that game. Yeah, they won last night. What'd they win last night? How bad was that win last night? Yeah, 10-2 last night, dude. And the game before that, they lost 8-0. The Mets are in trouble. See, I was hoping for not to root for the Mets, but I was kind of hoping for the Stadium Series with the Mets and the Yankees. Now the Yankees, I thought the Yankees were going to effectively end that series last night, and they did not. That was an insane baseball game. If you, I love playoff baseball. I was watching that game, and I was on the edge of my damn seat watching that game. That thing took off in the 8th inning, which was pretty unbelievable. But Scott's right. The Dodgers look pretty good right now. And if I had to guess at this point, it looks like it's going to be Dodgers, Yankees, probably. I think the Yankees are going to get there. Demetrius says, my poor Phillies. Demetrius, I told a funny story. I am more of a Phillies fan now. Yeah, got the Phillies hat here. I went to the World Series game in 22, and this is where I got that hat. But I told the story in 2009. I was at the Yankees-Phillies World Series game, brother, in New York, the inaugural season at Yankee Stadium, and I was 11 years old at the time, and I'm dripped out in Yankee gear because I mentioned my dad and my brother are both big Yankee fans. My dad grew up listening. He had one channel, and it was the Yankees and the Giants, and that's what he was a fan of, and rightfully so. And I was at that game. Now, since I've gotten older, I've become more of a Phillies fan, but I do have a warm place in my heart for the Yanks. I do not hate them like many Philly fans do, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting there, but no, Phillies are. I don't know what's going on with them, man. I'm happy they kept Rob Thompson. I will say that. Akbar says, Z, what do you think about Bronny James? Akbar, I got to be honest, man. I have my basketball fandom. Akbar has fallen off so much. When I was in like high school and college, that was actually my number one sport was watching the Sixers. I loved basketball. I was actually a great basketball player. I had a great jump shot. I'm the white dude in the gym who will show up and drop 3 triples on you, and everybody out for street balls like, who the fuck is this dude? I am that white dude, everybody. I am that white dude that will show up and do that. But no, my basketball fandom has fallen off so much, man. I don't know if it's partly because I work so much. I've been doing JAKIB now for 4 years. I think we started in October of 20, and we really weren't fully ramped up at that point. And then in January of 21, I started to ramp up more with John McMullen. I was producing at the time. I wasn't on the air. And then in April of 21, we launched Birds 365. And in April of 21, we launched the National Football Show. So we are, I guess, for 4 years. We're 4.5 years deep on really diving into this thing, man. And I don't know if that's part of the reason. Part of me is not a huge fan of the NBA dudes and the way they act. Like, I like the old school NBA dudes. Michael Jordan, like I said, he's my GOAT, not LeBron. I know LeBron's talented, and I don't take anything away from LeBron, but I don't know, man. It just they kind of all turned me off to it. And I think it's more because I've been working so hard on the Eagles and covering this that I fell off on basketball. But I am not as much of a basketball fan. And I will say this about the Sixers, because the Sixers are my basketball team. I do not believe they will ever win a title with Joel Embiid. I do not believe, when I was a young gun and they started the process, my dad, who grew up loving basketball as well, Daryl Dawkins was his favorite player. He was a big Dr. J guy. He told me, and he would tell me so emphatically, and I would fight and argue with him on it. He would tell me, "You're fucking up in Philly. The process will not work. It will not. You can't tank your way to a championship." And I fought him on it. I said, "We got Joel Embiid. We got Ben Simmons. Look at the players that we got. We got the team." And I fought him and fought him and fought him on it. And now it's one of those things, right? Sometimes you go through moments in life and you're like, man, Pops was right. Even when I thought Pops wasn't right, Pops was right. Well, that's that moment I had with the Sixers. And I do not like what they've done. And it doesn't look good. I don't think they're going to win with Joel Embiid. But Akbar, to answer your question, sorry, bro, I've been talking in circles ever since that because people are calling me Zander Kerr. Zander flicking a wrist. Richard says cap. And now, Richard, you want to meet me at the local LA Fitness right now, my guy. I'll fucking put you on skates, my boy. But to answer your question about Bronny, I like Bronny. I don't have an issue with what LeBron's done. A lot of people are like, oh, he's in because of LeBron. Yeah. When your dad is the greatest basketball player of all time, and he's going to be an owner in the league one day, and he's a multi-billionaire, and he's one of the most influential athletes on planet Earth, yeah, your son's going to get a chance. And to be honest, a lot of sports is genetics when you're talking about the greatest in the world. So I can't deny him too much for wanting to give him a chance. I don't know how good he'll be, but that's my take on Bronny. I have no issue with what they're doing, and I think people are kind of naive for acting like the Lakers missed out on some big second-round draft pick because they decided to take Bronny James instead. Like, first off, LeBron brought them a ring. Now, you could argue if it was a fuddy ring with the I think it was down in the what's it called? In the dome or whatever it was during COVID. You could argue that, whatever. But I got no issue with LeBron flexing his muscles like that. For him. Let's go to a super chat. Appreciate you, Mesmerized. Good stuff, man. Appreciate you checking in. He says, Sills, JF, Zander, and the whole JAKIB crew are my lifeline to the Eagles for years now. Much love from Winnipeg, Canada. I've been to Philly once. Loved it. That's dope, man. Appreciate you checking in from Canada. Do you like living in Canada? That would be my response to you. I hear some funny things about Canada. I've been to Canada several times. I grew up playing hockey, Mesmerized, and when you're in a travel hockey team, you got big tournaments in Canada. So I've been to Canada many a times. I've also gone skiing in Canada. Mont Tremblant, epic place, man. Epic place in Canada to go. But appreciate your support, man. Thank you for the super chat. Good stuff there. And yes, this is a post 365 show. It's funny because I lost John at 8:35, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go till 10. Now here we are at 10:20. I'm still chopping it up with everybody. Birds going to win this weekend, everybody, by the way. Birds are going to get the win this weekend. Let me go a couple more comments here I'll get to before I check out of here. Abe says, Xander, you think Raiders will change since Brady is a minority owner? Yes, Abe, I do. Yes, I do. I think when you bring a guy like Tom Brady around, he's going to change the culture to some extent. And we'll see what they do. And I'm wondering what Brady's end game is. Like, does he want to own, one of the teams he was a part of? Like, I could see him wanting to buy the team from Kraft at one point, and maybe the minority ownership is his way to like use it as a stepping stone to get to that when that day comes. I don't know. It depends what his end game is, Abe. Like the other idea is like Michael Jordan, a great basketball player, not a great owner. I mean, he improved their value and then he sold them. But He didn't win shit when he owned the Hornets. So I don't know. Maybe there's another side of it, but I think Tom Brady will bring a good mentality to that neighborhood if he's committed. So we'll see. Mesmerized check-in says, I don't mind it, but I was also born here. Gets to minus 40 Celsius in the winter where I'm at. God damn, that's cold, my friend. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. We don't operate on Celsius in the USA, brother. We operate on Fahrenheit. I don't know what the degree is of that, but that sounds cold to me. Mesmerized. What about a lot of people criticize Canada for I don't know. They are kind of goofy. The government's real goofy. They put people in prison if you talk against them or anything. Do you have any issues with that, or where do you fall on that? I'd be curious to see what your take is on all that stuff, because it's, I don't know. I don't live in Canada, nor do I think I ever would want to live in Canada. But I like hockey, so I understand that Canada has a good pipeline for great hockey players. I know that much. I'm going to check out of here, guys. If you hit me back, I will get back to you guys before I check out of here. Zander, you watch Rogan? Every once in a while, Abe. Abe, I work so much, dude, that I don't have time for 4-hour podcasts, bro. That's my issue. I watch Eagles content when I'm done, honestly, because I want to be as knowledgeable, as educated, and as up to date on the team as I can. And then I watch sports. I watch hockey. I watch love hockey. Obviously, I've mentioned that many times. This is a great question. Akbar, you want me to be here till 11:30? Why do the Flyers suck so bad? They're an awful organization, Akbar. From top to bottom. They don't know how to build a winning franchise. They never have. And Akbar, I've hated them since I was a child. I hated their ugly orange jersey. I hated their front office. I hated the way they operated. I even hated their players when I was younger. I hated everything about the Flyers. So you'll never hear me say anything good about the Flyers. But look, from a hockey guy, and I think they've done better with Keith Jones and Danny Briere now, but they had so many organizational issues that they would never overcome the odds and never climb the mountain to win the Stanley Cup, because they didn't have the right philosophies. They didn't have the right players. They didn't have the right leaders. Claude Giroux was a great player, but he wasn't the right leader. This is the thing that people don't understand about hockey. If you're a football fan and you see a C on a chest, it's just like the dudes. It doesn't matter. When you're a captain in hockey, it means a lot. It means a lot. And captains in the NHL vary from all skill levels to all styles of leadership to all types of players. There's not a one size fits all approach to being a captain in hockey, but you have to lead. You have to be a great leader, and your team has to be bought in, and you have to set the example. You have to. And Giroux is a great player. I don't believe he was a great captain. Many Flyers fans, I'm sure, will hate that I say that, but that's the truth. And they're just they were a bad organization. Now, Akbar, I wonder if they'll be able to turn it around. I think Keith Jones has done a much better job than they did in the past. And Danny Briere. By the way, I have a great story on Danny Briere. And I'll give you this before I get out of here. Shit, I'm running long now. I played hockey as a kid, obviously. Danny Briere's son, Caden, I think his name was, we played each other in hockey. And Danny Briere, it was the playoffs one year, or a big tournament or something, and it was right over in Hatfield at the ice line over in Hatfield. And we were playing Danny Briere's son, and Danny Briere's in the crowd. And I'm the goalie, obviously. And I was having, not to toot my own horn, I was having a tremendous tournament. Tremendous. I was lights out in that tournament. And Danny Briere's in the stands. His son, the little D-bag that he was back in the day, and I don't know now, hopefully he's a good dude now. I made a save, caught the ball, caught the puck in my glove, and Danny Briere's son starts whacking at my glove. I get up and I take my blocker, the big-ass blocker that the goalies wear if you're not a hockey guy, and I cleaned him right in the face, and I broke the 2 screws on his helmet because you're wearing a cage. We were young at the time. We were like probably 12, 13 years old. And Danny Briere went nuts in the crowd. He wanted me thrown out of the game. Now I got a 2-minute minor because he was in the crease. So I argued with the ref. But I'll never forget that moment. I punched Danny Briere's son in the face, and Danny Briere was so pissed off at me. And I'm like, come on, Danny, you played hockey. You understand. But that was a great moment for me playing versus him. His son was very, very talented player, very good player. But I punched him in the face, and Danny Briere had an issue with it. And that's my story on Danny Briere and his kids. But I do think he's doing a decent job in Philly. I'm not going to root for the Flyers ever because I hate everything about the Flyers. I really do. Ugly ass green jersey. Or not green. I'd say green. I'm looking at myself. Orange jersey, ugly as hell. The only thing I'd do with an orange is I would buy a sports car in orange. Like I would get picture me as like a 65-year-old dude. I'm buying a nice old Corvette. I would get that in orange. I think that would be pretty dope. But outside of that, I don't want orange on my hockey team's jersey. Do you have that real punching dude in the face? I don't know what you mean. Have that real. No, I don't have video of it. I was, dude, this was like probably 12, 13, 14 years ago. At some point, I was a young hockey player. I remember when you grow up playing travel hockey, it's a lifestyle, man. Like it's 4 or 5 days a week, every week. That was my childhood. When I think about my childhood, I think about hockey. I mean, I really do. And let me show you guys, because I showed everybody on Cilio my mask. I'd like to show everybody on here. Give me 1 second. I'll be right up with it. This is my goalie. Oh, wait. Let me turn off my red back. Show me the Flyers one piece. Yeah, I don't got that, my friend. Let me show you guys this goalie mask. This thing is a relic from my days of playing. You can see I got the SJP on the side. Zan, it says Zan on the front. You see that with right on the chin, right there. I got the big cross on top for my faith. Very faith-filled man, proud Catholic. And then on the inside, there's a goalie helmet with a Z, which you can't see because the back of the box is covered up. And then on the back, I have a stop sign because I was a goalie, and I used to always say, stop the puck. And then you can see the Philly skyline up there. I think you can see that, right? There's kind of getting a glare from the lights and shit, but pretty sick helmet though, man. This was my goalie helmet late in my career, and it's now in the box, as you can see. That thing is hung up, and I am not a goalie anymore, but pretty sick helmet. Pretty cool stuff there. Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate all the support today on the channel. As always, I'm going to check out of here. Cilio coming up 2 to 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. We'll have a great conversation with him. I'll be on his show this afternoon as well. We had a great segment yesterday, so go check that out. Appreciate all of you guys. Hit that like button for me. Final score, Scott, I gave was 27-21. Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles win this game. I don't know how you could lose this game. I think the Eagles win 27-21, Scott. So appreciate you being here. He said, show me that Flyers one piece. No such thing, my friend. No such thing. Before I had this custom mask, I wore a Brodeur mask. M. Reyes is 52-3. Hilarious, M. Reyes. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Appreciate you all being here. Birds 365, a Football Friday edition. Johnny Mac had some personal stuff to tend to. Appreciate everybody checking in, listening to me, chopping it up, talking all things sports, NFL, MLB, NBA, hockey. You guys are the best, man. Great community as always. And I'll catch you later on today, 2 to 6 p.m. National Football Show. And I'll see you on the pre- and post-game show this weekend. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.